Crossover. Oh, killer crossover.
Just crossover.
It just crossed him over nastily.
Another victim to the crossovers. Cross him up and sit him down.
What the heck?
We're gonna do versions of Matt's.
Since we got Matt
accent,
McMaster,
we got Matt McMaster in here.
Let's
Matt
go.
McMaster's first crossover.
Let's see if Matt
go.
McMaster can talk like a Nebraskan.
Yeah. Talk normal, Matt.
The nice thing is that
It
if
still
I
couldn't do
wanted to
Nope,
talk
there's
in a
a little
Nebraska
nasally in
accent,
there.
that I would have to do, if I want to talk in a Chicago, I don't have to pretend to do anything.
Hey, so I heard you were a public transportation guy.
I like taking the Metra and the CTA.
The old L. So you could teach. This is a great time for you to be here because you could teach Nebraskans how to take the subways and not have bodily harm done to them in New York in a couple weeks.
I think the number one thing. No, this is by the way, I'm being completely serious. I know
seem
I'm
serious.
The number one thing about being on any sort of public transit like that is confidence. Just have
That's right.
confidence.
That's right.
Just peacock a little. Look people in the eye. Just if you look vulnerable, people will try and Gary's laughing at me. I'm being a million percent serious. If you look vulnerable and you look nervous or you look like you're like people will mess with you.
What if you took a stop too far? You took a stop.
You didn't take a stop too far. You're exactly where you want to be. Anytime you are taking public transit, you are never where you're not supposed to be.
Eli Manning did not look confident in his Twitter photo on the subway for the first time. Maybe that was his first mistake.
And because of that, there are thousands that are not going to the Pinstripe Bowl.
I know. People
are afraid of mass transit in New York City.
And the $800 hotels.
Where you just get like 130 feet.
And the $1,000 flights too.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh yeah.
No, but I'm serious. Public transit, like if you're taking public transit, just pay. You know where you're going. I know where I'm going. Don't let anybody mess with you.
If I can find a way to get there, which we'll see. I think I have a place to stay.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Train ride? Would you do the 40-hour train ride?
No, it wouldn't be a train all the way there. I'd have to find a way to get there. Fly in a plane. It would cost some money, obviously. And then I got a buddy who's out in Jersey. So
okay.
So that's for you're not alone. I have somebody who has a friend that lives more in Connecticut, but where the Bronx is, it's not as long a drive.
It's not.
They're like, you know what? That might be the tipping point where I'm going to say yes, because that would save me a bunch of money. Now I'm looking at where I'm going to be of flying JetBlue, which is a lot cheaper.
Where will you be coming from?
South Florida.
Okay, that's easy.
So JetBlue.
They got 100 of those a day.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll work.
That would make a difference.
You'd be on the flight with Jeets.
You might be better. I honestly think the best way of doing it would probably be taking an 8-hour drive to Chicago. And then just go
catch one of the 100 flights.
Yeah, and then catch one of the O'Hare flights to LaGuardia or JFK or whatever.
Last time I went to New York, we flew out of Kansas City, and it was a great success.
Yeah,
great success.
I just think that's if you're looking at flights right now, you're going to be looking at like super expensive flights because you're going to be flying out of Lincoln. You can't even fly out of Omaha. I mean, unless you're taking a connector, you have to take connectors, right?
Hold on, time out.
There's direct.
Hold on,
time
time
out
out
on Southwest, which people like.
Trying to make you an Omaha guy. Did you just compare the Lincoln and Omaha airports?
No, I didn't compare.
Don't even talk about.
I'm not comparing. Lincoln Airport's nice.
They should shut it down.
I like the Lincoln Airport. You shut your mouth. Yeah, I like the Lincoln Airport. The Lincoln Airport's nice. They put money into that airport. They put money and time and effort. And Rachel Barth is a great woman.
How many?
I don't even know who Rachel is.
She does L&K. She's the airport lady.
Oh, you were a part of the
Yes, I was.
You are a whore. You got paid to be part of that.
Clip that, Peter. Clip that.
You
were
a part.
That's
of
a drop.
The Matt Rule Airlines rollout.
Yes,
that quickly.
You are a shill.
That went belly up in 10 seconds, and Matt McMaster sitting here is like, I still love this.
I was fighting battles with her on Facebook after Redway went down. I was right there.
Why? Because you had a bunch of free credits that you couldn't use?
Yes, exactly. We got good perks. My mom texted me. She goes, "You got to drive back to Lincoln. No more beer." But I tell you,
great point.
My mom was when he was like, "You want a beer?" I'm like, I know my mom is going to watch this and freak out because she's like, even if you have one sip, you can't drive.
So are you just staying on somebody's couch right now?
I'm in a nice. So my buddies have a house in Lincoln.
Yes.
And one of our friends, Evan, He's an idiot. He moved out and
Love
he
it.
left his bed there like an idiot.
Amazing.
And so I'm just in his room in his bed.
Amazing.
But now I brought my own sheets and
But
blankets and clothes.
We're
and whatever.
getting something hooked up here.
Oh
right?
yes,
All
I will
right.
be living in a.
All right.
So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hear you talk about how there's no street lamps.
There wasn't.
That
It's
doesn't
dangerous.
make any sense.
There was. I couldn't see on the road.
Interstate 80 from Lincoln, Omaha is probably the most well-lit stretch of Interstate 80.
You
that we
clearly have not
It's a
been in Chicago because everywhere I go, it's lit up like a Christmas tree. I can see everywhere I'm going. Out there, I was a high beam guy, Peter. I was high beaming.
He was high beaming.
I was high beaming.
Did by chance you not get on the interstate and you're
Yeah.
on Highway 6?
Yeah, if you were on Highway 6, then I could see
that's
it.
a different story.
I got on. I don't know.
You
where
got-
I was, guys.
Did you go from downtown on 180 all the way north of town there, and then
and then I got to 680. I got
you
to
got the 680?
yeah,
Did you take
yeah.
Dodge down here?
yeah.
All right.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
there
Guys,
should have been no stretch of your drive where
There was a
what-
long stretch where I couldn't see, where I was on the highway and I couldn't see.
I think
All right, you
could
and I
see.
have an actual. We actually have to talk here.
All right.
You want to? Let's wave at the camera. Let's wave to Jack Mitchell because you know he's going to clip this. Hey Jack, how you doing? You wanna
Oh, is
wave?
this about the stupid softball team?
So listen. Of course, I get announced that I'm going to be hosting with Gary, and immediately Jack, instead of congratulating me, being
Mhm.
like, "Hey man, way to go,"
Mhm.
goes, "Well, what does this mean for the Jack Mitchell softball experience?" Right?
Mhm.
I'm a free agent, Happer, and a little birdie told me you're a softball player. Okay.
So there has been a challenge has been wagered, right? A challenge has been sent out, and I can't back down from a challenge. People tell me I can't do stuff, and I immediately say
Yeah.
I can.
We can do it. Happer, I want to form an alliance with you. I want to be on your team. I want to play with you.
Look at this.
I am a 16-20 the zone guy. I work here. You're my coworker.
Mhm.
Coworkers must stay together. So,
Mhm.
in solidarity to the camera,
Interesting,
Happer,
Jack.
Happer.
Yeah.
Right
Look
there.
at it.
Handshake.
Look at it. Look
right
at it.
there. Forever.
Handshake.
We already have defectors from the Jack Mitchell
So-
team,
so-
not the last.
So
The
I will
portal
be
is
on.
open.
I will be on the unnamed Connor Happer softball team. That wherever this man goes into battle, I will follow him. He will be my
That's why we
Rachel
love this
Barth.
guy. That's
Hey, who else can we take from their team? Who would be worth it? Because we are talking about, it's kind of like guys that are going in the portal that like
Sure.
they didn't really do much. So
Sure,
we're
yeah.
kind of emotionally attached to them.
I was a leadoff
I understood
guy.
that you never got a hit.
I walked. It was just bad. I just got unlucky.
Can-
I had a
can
lot
you-
of good contact. I hit.
you
I,
can play.
I hit 730 in my college softball league.
All right.
Like I
I'll take
played
it.
it. I was on 3 college softball
The fact
teams. We
that
went
you
to
know
the
your
championship.
stats is pretty
We kept
impressive.
stats. I played in the spring. I was playing 3 softball games a day.
That's good enough for me.
I started playing 12-inch softball in Chicago at 16 in the South Side. Like I faked my age and everything like that. I just had a bad
Nice.
year. I just had a bad year with Jack, but I did tag up on an infield fly, so I
Weird.
still have the legs.
It seems like everybody did. It seems like everybody went on that team. They were like formerly maybe good softball players, and then all of a sudden they couldn't get a hit. Weird.
I think
It's weird.
I think Caleb Henry could be bought from that team.
Interesting.
I think anybody could be bought from that team.
Interesting.
All right. Do you think a change of scenery would benefit Caleb?
Yeah.
I just think that like any amount, like you could give him a $50 gift card, and I think he would hop on over to
It's
this
like,
team. I
it's
mean,
like-
he's carrying that team with no reward.
It's
you know?
like Pop Isaacs and Jemiah Neal. You get them in the Creighton system, and all
Yeah.
of a sudden they start getting
Yeah.
better shots, and they start making them.
Absolutely.
It's like I shot 28% from 3. It wasn't very good. All of a sudden you get here, you're shooting 35.
Maybe I
interesting.
don't know if you really want to put the dagger in him, we could try and get Jack's kid to be on our team.
That would be awesome.
Oh, I think we
I
need-
could text
You know
Johnny.
what?
That'd be
I
cool.
could. That'd
We
be
have,
so cold.
So Bishop and myself are alums of KLIN. Now we have another alum of KLIN. I think we should just start an internal NRG media war.
I agree.
Like you guys should all turn on Jack. Like all this love for Jack and what he does for 1620, we should just shut him down.
Wow.
Well, I think that's a little aggressive, don't you think? I mean, that's.
I think
I
we
mean,
need-
we were just kind of joking about.
I think we
softball.
need- I think we
mean, do you have an actual? I mean, we
Happy
were
Monday,
kind of
Jack.
going back and forth, and like now you're talking about ending his career.
See, but-
We're just doing.
I'm
this
not
little,
talking about like when the troops come on the shore and they go with the ground. I'm talking let's just go in and drop the bomb. Let's just take out a community.
We just want we just have to be careful because we want to be selective. We're not taking everybody.
No, we're not like the Jack Mitchell softball experience where if you have legs and a pulse, you're going to play on our team.
Yeah.
We are actually going to diligently look at all of our options.
And honestly, from the outside looking in, it feels like, I don't know, just guessing. It feels like there's maybe like a culture problem. I
don't think they have a high standard over there.
Yeah. So
I don't know enough, but I believe in what Happer's saying.
Thank you.
I was there. I was on the inside.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, there's some people in that Jack Mitchell experience program who've been in that program for a long time that have been causing problems. And until they get rid of those people in that program, he's not going to have any success.
Interesting. They're poisoned.
Yeah, from the inside.
That's a tough look, man.
So we'll take a look.
But look, solidarity.
Thank you.
Solidarity.
Look,
Me and you.
Raise it up.
Raise it up. Right
There
there.
it is.
Right there.
On camera.
Omaha.
I feel like this is back in
And the
COVID
Omaha
year.
airport.
I feel like this is back in COVID in 120th Street, where we had the red and the blue just got together. Right?
That's right.
I feel like that's just what happened, and I'm seeing it in real time right
It's
here.
just as cool, too.
It's just as important.
Just as important. Just as epic.
So yeah, there we go. We
let me
solved that.
process that real
So
quick here.
you have your, and by the way, you'll like this. You'll have your second baseman / outfielder. I wear number 2 as in honor of Ryan Terrio. Take that as you will.
Most people wear 2 in honor of like Jeter. You know,
I was on the radio. I was on the radio in Chicago, and we were talking about Raiola and Mahomes, and they were asking me these ESPN guys, like, what about like Raiola, and he loves Mahomes, and I go, well, he said that he wears 15 because of Tebow, not because of Pat, and which is true, which is what he said. And the guys were like, he's not wearing 15 because of Tebow. You don't wear number 2 because of Terrio. You wear number 2 because of Jeter. And I go, well, I wear number 2 because of Terrio. So I mean, there's yeah.
I wear number 2 because of Ryan Terrio.
That is a phrase I didn't think I'd hear today.
I might put that on my Twitter bio.
Not Jeter.
Not Jeter.
Ryan Terrio. Everybody wanted to be number 2 though when I was a kid playing Little League. They're like, I want to be number 2.
I played hockey.
I'm all right.
And everybody wanted to be 88 because of Patrick Kane.
Yeah.
Oh, not Eric Lindros?
No.
Just checking.
No. We weren't in Canada.
I think you could have 2.
I can have 2?
Yeah, you can have 2.
And I
if
do I get a 15 years, $750 million, or is that not in the payroll? Or?
Well, inappropriate to discuss on air, but we'll figure something.
Inappropriate to discuss on air while I drink.
You have
beer.
you have been subtweeted by Jack.
Okay. All right.
Can I read it?
What's Jack got?
I
do have his notification.
I miss the old days of City Rec softball before all this moving around and finding the best deal. Loyalty used to matter. It was about the name on the front of your jersey. In other news, unless you have a current lanyard, no access to the Jack Mitchell softball experience official facilities until further notice.
It's rich. Jack saying it's about the name on the front of the jersey when he put his name on the front of the jersey. That's real rich coming from that guy. I mean, he literally started the team and named it after himself. He didn't even name his kid after himself. He named the softball team though.
If you can't compete, then that's great. You're telling me that, but you better get with the times because people are coming.
Hey, times are changing.
Yeah,
time we change too.
The portal's
there might be
open.
tampering going on.
By the way, he definitely did name his kid after himself. So that kind of went over my head.
That's right.
I think we could do some tampering here.
I don't think there's anyone on that team that you
Friday
really
night,
want.
Stop by and say, hey, Pat, how's it going?
I've received a few correspondences already for some people who are showing interest.
Now, is this going to be a Connor Happer experience, or are we going to do NRG Media?
And we're gonna make it something bigger than just one person.
Yeah,
and we're gonna do things the right way. We're going to do things the right way.
All jokes aside, this is actually something that I want to happen, and I think it legitimately could happen.
It's about doing things the right way. Yeah. No shortcuts. We're going to have a good culture.
Are you going to control what you can control?
We're going to control what we can control. You know, there might be bumps along the way, but I'm not expecting there to be.
We don't have a crystal ball. We can't tell you. Yeah. We can't tell you what's going to come next. We're just going to worry about the guys who are here right now.
I think, you learn from past experiences as well. Maybe
a lot of those 1-run losses where we gave up a lead in the 7th.
Well, you mean 30-run losses where we just got hurt?
No, we don't play that game, homie. That's you and Lincoln.
Yeah,
they got beat that bad.
Hey, I'm not. Hey,
got no hit.
No longer me and Lee. By the way, that was not my fault. I got walked. I got walked.
No hit.
I got walked. I walked that game.
You guys got no hit in a slow pitch softball.
Lincoln Industries.
I
remember the name.
I went. I was 0 for 0 that game. I had 2 walks.
I don't know why that's not talked about every day in the illustrious Jack Mitchell softball facilities. I don't know how that's not on the wall.
At one point,
remember, we got no hit.
At one point, we had more no hitters against than wins. So,
well, welcome to a different culture.
Yeah, I don't. Once again, Gary's saying, "Is there anyone else that we could pick off of the team?" I really don't think there's anyone else that off the top of.
Okay. All right.
Oh, Pat Norris. Pat Norris.
I know. That's go to the basketball game Friday night. Go
see, I don't think Pat would want to play on my team.
Okay.
And Pat.
Do you and Pat have
you
a
and
problem?
Pat butt heads?
I love Pat. I love
beef?
Pat, but he's just he's a Lincoln guy. He's a Lincoln guy.
I mean, look, money talks. Money talks, Happer.
He's a Lincoln guy. And bad news, we're brought to you by Nike. So bad news for Pat. So he can't wear his Adidas stuff. He's on.
Did you, when Nebraska was here, did you stop by the Nebraska bench and talk to Pat?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah,
I talked to Kent and Jake for a while though.
You're doing the MC stuff, Crane. I had no clue.
Yeah, we're rocking.
Dope.
We're rocking.
Dope.
It is dope. Thank you.
Like Matt was asking about other people's jobs. Like, who's the radio voice of Creighton basketball? I'd like to do that. Who is the MC during games? I'd like to do that.
I asked the MC. I didn't ask about the Creighton announcer. Though.
Start asking about other people's jobs. This is good. We all need this.
See, he's learning early.
Yeah, we all need this. We all need this.
Put the pressure on. Put the pressure on a little bit.
I mean, next thing you know, he's going to be over at Sweet 98. They're going to be blackballing him. Be like, hey, how do I get on air here?
You would be a good FM radio DJ guy.
I did that for Lincoln. I went on an FM radio show and did it. I was just kind of.
It was on Red 94.5.
No, it was on. Wait, why is that a joke? Red,
that's a real station.
That's a real station.
Yeah. I know.
It was on B107.
B107.3.
Yeah. With Brooke Summers.
Okay.
It was my birthday, and I was like, look, I just kind of want to do this. Like, it's fun.
Just wants to do
I
it.
just kind of want to, I don't know. I don't know what you talk about. I don't know what you do, but I think it's funny and I'd enjoy it. And
You're
I think it'd be a
right
good
questions.
show.
You're asking the right questions.
And she goes, hell yeah, come on, do it. And so we had a full 4-hour show together, talking about pop culture and e-news and astrology. It was insane. It was crazy.
Nice. You're asking the right questions. That's basically how I've done everything too.
Yeah.
It's just hey,
I
I think I could do that. Do you want to let me try? And
Yeah.
they're like, sure. And then all of a sudden you're doing that.
Yeah.
That's
That
how it
happened
goes.
with Gary and filling in, and then he quickly regretted it.
That's true.
He goes, hey, I think I could do that. Yeah. Okay. I'd like to do that.
Yeah. All of a sudden he gets a call from me. Can't wait to work with you. And Gary goes, what? You can't wait to what? What's going on? You're working what?
Brian emails in. Did Gary invite himself onto your softball team? He kept saying we and us.
Hey,
He's our manager.
I'll be the general manager.
We'll have to have some discussions.
Would you rather have me be the president or the GM?
Ooh. I don't get to make the decisions.
I feel like I am
The president.
at least one of those things. Yeah.
You're the owner.
But you're the
owner.
You're the owner.
So you need a president, and then you would need.
So are
I
you
don't
going
want
to
there
be?
to be too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, that Jack Mitchell experience has an owner, president, and GM. It's all one person. But
too many cooks.
Too many cooks. Way too many cooks.
Watch out.
Why aren't you guys asking me to play?
I don't know what we're gonna get.
This is like a girlfriend being like, "Do I look fat?" Like that's what that was.
I just don't know what we're gonna get. I don't know. I don't have any.
I don't have any tape. We don't have any tape on you, man. Sorry.
Get the tape.
Did your high school coach send it in?
Matt McMaster came through with all of his stats. He's like,
zero batting average.
He's like, I slashed 450. 680 and
I'm like
1120.
I guarantee.
I'm like Domingo Ayala. I sat 1400. I act 22.
I guarantee I would have a hit before you in slow pitch softball.
Do you know who had more hits than me in slow pitch softball?
Everybody?
A lot of people.
Well, I mean, so the bar
It was
is
a
low.
bad year. It was a bad year. It was a bad year.
But there were a lot of games.
I only played in like 4.
So we're not going to take just everybody. Let me just.
I had a lot of walks though. I walk. Billy Bean would love to have me on.
See, I don't love that you walk. You shouldn't walk in slow pitch softball. You should get hits.
This is Mitchell is having a meltdown right now on Twitter. This is incredible. He cannot stop tweeting. He's tweeted out 6 tweets in the last 2 minutes. So here's the thing. So in the old days, the city wrecks off, blah, 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 blah. Then after my comment of his first name being on the jersey, he tweets out, here's the name of the front of the jerseys for those who've forgotten what matters most. His name, it's
Jack
him.
Mitchell.
Jack Mitchell.
It's Jack Mitchell.
Jack Mitchell.
It's
just
about
him.
me.
And then let's check in with the Connor Happer cam. And it's just the Monstars there.
Well,
I'm sure Jack loves because
Monstars were a tough out.
Yes, they were.
They were a tough out.
I feel like this is good. We need Omaha on Lincoln Crime.
All right.
So we only have 2 players. Is it just me and you right now?
Connor's got a lengthy.
Do you
list.
have ringers? Let's get some ringers.
He's a community softball guy.
Okay. In all seriousness, I do want to join I'm going to join a hockey league out here and a softball league out here. Can't wait for that,
dude.
Pickleball.
You're doing.
I'm not a pickleball guy.
I could make you a pickleball guy.
Do you like pickleball?
I've started playing pickleball.
Hey, did you play broomball?
Yes,
at UNL.
I played against one of the national champions. We got
that is intense.
We got to the final game.
All
2
right,
years.
You can play. You can play on my team.
Final game 2 years, and then we played with the guy, and he showed up with his own helmet and his own stick and everything like that. And like I played hockey, and they're like, "All right, Matt, you got him." And I got this thing that it's like 3 feet like lower than what's supposed to, and this guy's got this long stick.
He brought his own broom.
I got chopped up.
That's okay. We're not gonna be playing any of those in this.
Or is it broom? I'll join your broomball league. I'm in.
I don't know if there's a broom. I was just trying to get your background just to see what you're.
Do you know what I am? I'm an athlete. Athlete. Okay.
All right. I was like, what's that spell?
I didn't know where we were going when we started to spell.
All right. Well, just think about that. If any names come up, if you get any correspondences from anybody, you just let me know.
Yeah.
Send them my way.
Hey, Jordan says getting into a crime fight with people from Crime Town sounds like a bad idea, Gary.
Oh, Crime Town Lincoln. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what they should rename their team.
Crime Town, the Jack Mitchell Crime Town Experience.
The Crime Town Bandits.
Crime Town. That's what we should name our team.
But we're not Crime Town. We're Swim Town.
We're Holy Town Angel. I don't know, man. I'm not good off the cuff.
Swim Town.
Hey,
Peter, you got a name for us? Peter, what should we name it?
You're asking me off the cuff. I got nothing.
The Royals.
We
should just be the Kansas City Royals.
I haven't heard that one. The Royals.
That's who. We're just KC.
Got a message. Matt is Uncle Rico.
I don't know what that means.
You've never seen Napoleon Dynamite?
No.
All right.
Add it to the list.
So that's
All state.
you're the new Connor.
He's the new me. This is awesome. I
love
this.
Good thing Josh isn't here today.
We're gonna have a segment. That's gonna be one of our segments. Is going to be Gary's going to give me something that I have to watch in terms of pop culture that I haven't seen before.
This
and
is awesome.
They will come back on Monday, and I will do my homework, and I will watch it, and then I will report.
Matt's going to teach me a lot of things.
But yeah, Skibbity Ohio will probably be on the docket.
You should know about this. You're on TikTok.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I asked him about the Costco guys, and he was all in it.
Oh, boom! I know. You got to get on your show. This is Mr. Costco guys.
Loves the Costco
Those guys rule. I got to admit.
I'll be looking down at my phone, and I'll hear Rizzler, and I'll just pop up.
You hear his new rap?
No, I haven't. He's got a new rap.
It was impressive.
It's unreal. He's dropping bars.
Not what I was
check
expecting.
That out. That's
I'm the Panther dressed in black.
Yeah.
When I give your girl the wrist face, there's no chance she's coming back.
Yeah,
I hang with AJ and Big.
There's a new one.
Is there?
There's a new one.
Hell yeah, dude! Can't wait. I'm gonna listen to that.
Yep.
Right on my way back to the lightless roads of Omaha, I will be listening to the Rizzlers.
I don't know where I am, but it's dark again.
Yeah,
many lights. We have many lights. It's a very well lit town. It's gonna be even more well lit.
We have the most lights.
We have the most lights. So you have that new building. The new building is the third tallest building in Omaha. Already.
Lots of lights.
It is.
It's about to be the first.
Lots of lights. They didn't even vote for me.
Many
lots of lights.
Beautiful lights.
No. Get those lights.
Frankly, they're the best lights.
Capitol Street from 10th to 9th is closed. And you wouldn't think that makes a big deal, but it does.
We're going to build a softball team, and Jack Mitchell's going to pay for it.
That's really good. That's really good.
Frankly, embarrassing. Crooked Jack.
Well, happy first day, Matt. You polish off that beer. Solidarity.
Great first crossover.
That's the crossover powered by Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlevelconcrete.com. It's Monday. We'll start things off next.
It's the Connor Happer Show. Are we sure we want to do this?
Could you, make an announcement that we're ready?
It's the Connor Happer Show on 1620, The Zone.
All right, welcome in. Happy Monday. It's the Connor Happer Show here on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Connor Happer and Peter Krenzer with you today. Josh is out. He will return tomorrow. Peter, let's have some fun. Unfortunately, the Royals did not get Juan Soto.
Oh, that is exactly what that's what I meant to do during the break. I was going to make that my little tag today.
They fell just short. Maybe missed by a few $100 million, maybe several $100 million, but they were they checked in at some point. So that's one thing. And I wouldn't want the burden of having a guy on a 15-year contract. Oh, wait, what's that? You already have Bobby Witt Jr. on a decade-long contract? Okay, that's fine. All right, welcome into a Monday show. Mike Schaefer, Sam McEwen will join as they always do on a Monday. That's the lineup. Guests-wise, powered by the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. Want to hear from you all, 402-951-1620 on the 42 Degrees The Source hotline. You can call or text that number, tweet at Happer Show at Connor Happer. On the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed, email Connor at 1620thezone.com on the Equitable Bank inbox. And we say good morning to the YouTube streamers today. As always, listen to the show on YouTube. Watch the show on YouTube or on zonetv.live. We are there. Also on the 1620 The Zone TV YouTube, you can find Nick's Vegas vlog. There's some really funny memeable Easter eggs in there. If you want to just, go ahead and peruse it. But 1620 The Zone TV, see what we were up to. An hour by hour kind of recap of our trip to Vegas a couple weeks ago with various appearances from Nick just in his room talking. So check that out. 1620 The Zone TV. Like I said, you could find the comedy probably in any of these things. So you could check that out there. Elsewhere, today we got to recap a big weekend. And then, of course, there's a lot to come today. The portal is officially open. Happy portal opening day to all those who celebrate. A bunch of Nebraska players that declared their intentions to go into the portal last week are officially in today. And one in particular is the number one person in the transfer portal right now, as ranked by 24/7 Sports.
Portal rankings.
Who knew that Nebraska had the best player in the country last year, and he didn't even play that much?
Very cool.
And his name it's extremely cool. And his name is Prince Will. So I don't know how they make these rankings, but we'll see what the suitors are like for Mr. Prince Will and others who are leaving Nebraska, and who else goes into the portal and who's connected to who and all of those things. So we'll be tracking that as we go on throughout the coming weeks, really. Nebraska headed to the Pinstripe Bowl officially. Start spreading the news. It turns out that going to New York around Christmas is horribly expensive. They weren't lying to you. I don't think
that New Year's Christmas flight is
you might not get eaten by a rat, but you might have to pay a lot of money.
Might as well
to get
feed
there.
your wallet to
or
a
you could
rat.
drive. I once made the drive from here to that area of the country.
Is that what
it was horrendous?
Is that how you got there last year? Because didn't you go there last year for a wedding, or was it something else?
I flew out of Kansas City last year.
Oh, that's right.
That was beautiful. That was in August, and it wasn't expensive at all. It was amazing.
Was the new terminal open by then?
The new terminal in Kansas City was open?
Okay.
In fact, not work because we're going to have a better airport than Kansas City here in 5 years. But as of right now, it's a good option if you're looking for more direct flights and more frequent direct flights. They got to have all those set up for Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and all of Taylor Swift's friends to get into KCI, or maybe they just fly private into the downtown airport. Anyway, so yeah, we'll talk about the Pinstripe Bowl matchup with Boston College today. We have a bracket for the college football playoff, the first 12-team college football playoff. And everybody's happy
Yeah,
about
everyone's
this.
happy. No complaints.
Everybody's happy about this except one team. One team that happens to be the banner carrier for the conference that says they run college football. That would be Alabama. Gets left out, and deservedly so. We'll talk about why. And it's not because they scheduled too hard in the non-con, no matter what they want you to believe. Oregon steamrolls their way through the Big Ten undefeated on their first run through, and people are saying that Big Ten people are mad. Don't put it on the internet that Big Ten people are mad. We'll discuss that today. Emmett Johnson, he is out of the portal before he even went in. How about that? He's in the portal, but he wasn't really in the portal because the portal wasn't open, and now he is not in the portal today. And he'll be joining Nebraska back for their practices and bowl preparation this week, and then be with them next year. Got that one all figured out. The Mets landed Juan Soto on a 15-year, $765 million deal. And people get mad because of the money figures that are being thrown out there. I love it because there's no deferred money.
No deferred money.
I
didn't know you could do that.
I thought that was going to be a trend, and I thought they were just going to be like, all right, Juan Soto, that's cool. Pay you $6 million this year. We'll go get every other good player, and then we'll pay you $90 million a year in like 2045. And Juan Soto said, no, thank you. I don't want that. I'd like my money right now. And I think that's a good thing for the sport, to be honest with you. Scott Frost returns to UCF, returns to college football where he will be the head man at UCF. There is plenty to discuss on that. And then
expensive shoes.
And then his really nice shoes. I'm not the shoe guy.
I'm not really a shoe guy either, but I did
People were commenting
a quick deep dive once. Bigelow caught it the first time.
So what do we have? Do you have any information?
It was called the Claw something, worth about $3,000 from what I saw.
$3,000 shoes.
Yes.
$3,000 shoes. By the way, John emails in on the Equitable Bank inbox. Did you read the comments about the Frost hiring at UCF on the article on The Athletic? Absolutely brutal. I did not. But judging off of, like I tweeted out, and we'll talk about this plenty as we go on throughout today. But I tweeted out on Saturday night when the news came out that I was happy for him and that I think he'll have success. And people were like, that's why you're an idiot, Connor. And I'm like, that's why I'm an idiot? There's a lot of other reasons that I could be an idiot. That I don't know. So we'll discuss that.
Yeah. So Bigelow had it stepping off the plane. Jordan I don't even know how you say that. Cause fours goes around $3,000.
Not shoe guys.
Not shoe guys.
They
look cool though.
I don't think Josh is a shoe guy either. So I don't think we're missing the shoe analysis.
We're missing our shoe guy
today. And then there was some basketball over the weekend where Creighton took another hit but won against UNLV. Pop Isaacs is out for the remainder of the year, and we'll discuss them. And Nebraska. People were filling up my inbox on Saturday, and they were asking, is 3740? Is 3740? And I had to answer, yes, it is. Nebraska lost by 40 on Saturday to Michigan State. Wasn't good. We will talk about that as we go on throughout the show today. Like I said, would love to hear from you all today on the show, and all those things will be covered, including our conversations with our guests Mike Schaefer and Sam McEwen. Andrew writes in on Twitter, how surprised are you that Nebraska hasn't named a DC by now? I think they'd want that person to recruit portal guys. I'm not surprised. I judging by what Matt Rule said last week, I think they'll take their time with this a little bit. And I don't know how open the search is, but he did mention, hey, look, there's a lot of people that are asking, and whether you believe that or not, there's a lot of interest in the job. And I think they feel like they have a pretty safe candidate in-house in John Butler. And so they have to, probably look at all the options before they end up doing that. I'm not surprised. I wonder, I don't even know what the timeline might be for that, to be honest with you. It might still take some more time, but I I don't know how big of a deal that is in recruiting. Nebraska has assistants on their staff, and they could put all sorts of staffers out there. You're really selling, Nebraska. Obviously, the DC can help, and things like that. Let's see. Michael writes in on the text line. Did you make the drive to New York for lunch? No. Tough to do. 3-hour drive to Kansas City for lunch, like a 21-hour drive to New York. Can't go there for lunch. I made, so when I came, that was for our honeymoon like a few years ago. And so we drove out to the East Coast and we made some stops in the Northeast. And when we drove back, we were staying on Long Island, and we left at whatever 4 or 5 in the morning or something like that. And we did it all in one shot. We stopped obviously for lunch and gas and, all the stuff in between, but we did it straight home.
There you go.
I was back in my driveway and I felt like I was like Clark Griswold. I got out of my car when I got home. I'm like, whoa. This morning I was on the Tappan Zee Bridge, or I was on the whatever bridge, that goes into the city. And now I'm in my driveway here in Nebraska, and I didn't fly to do that. I was super proud of myself. It was exhausting. It was horrendous. I would never recommend it to anybody.
I did it,
but I did. But I did do that.
Died that day.
And now I don't have to really do that again. So that's great.
One and done.
Off and running on a Monday. Plenty of things to discuss from over the weekend. Let's talk about the college football playoff a little bit when we return on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. All right, so we have a college football playoff field. We have a bracket. Wonder if this is going to go like March Madness, where you make your picks. I like their path. I like that path there. I like how these teams match up. It's a little smaller version of that, maybe slightly easier to pick, but
it gives you your fix until March.
Maybe it'll hold you over until March. But we oftentimes think in brands in college football, and it hasn't always been that easy this year either. So we will have 3 college football playoff games in the North in the on-campus games, with Notre Dame hosting Indiana. That'll be the Friday night game, the December 20th Friday night game. Then we'll start off on Saturday morning with Penn State hosting SMU. The one game in the South is Texas and Clemson at 3 o'clock that afternoon. And then Ohio State gets a home game with Tennessee at 7 o'clock on Saturday, the 21st. Winner in that game gets Oregon. Winner of the Texas game gets Arizona State. Winner of the Penn State game gets Boise. People are really feeling some type of way about Penn State's path. This is what they get for losing in the Big Ten championship game. And then Georgia will be the other team left. They won the SEC championship game on Saturday, and they'll get the winner of Notre Dame and Indiana. So it came down to really one spot. After Saturday it all wrapped up, we knew who was getting in, and it really came down to 2 teams for that final spot. Would it be the loser of the ACC title game in SMU, whose season appeared to be dead when they were down by multiple scores in the Clemson game and then stormed all the way back to save their season, which it turned out it did save their season? Or is it Alabama, who was sitting at home with their 3 losses? And then the stumping began late Saturday night and into Sunday morning. Here's what we need to do. I saw there was conferences putting out messages, and they were putting out, hey, here's some things that you should look at. But the narrative that the SEC and Alabama have chosen to put out there is very, very stupid. So Greg Byrne, the athletic director at Alabama, did a tweet on Sunday after the playoff field was revealed, and he said this: disappointed with the outcome and felt like we were one of the best 12 teams in the country. We had an extremely challenging schedule and recognized there were 2 games in particular that we did not perform as well as we should have. Thank you for recognizing that, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
We have said that we would need to see how strength of schedule would be evaluated by the college football playoff. With this outcome, we will need to assess how many Power 4 non-conference games make sense in the future to put us in the best position to participate in the college football playoff. That is not good for college football. Then he said, with that being said, we do not need to hang our heads and now need to finish this season strong. They play Michigan in the ReliaQuest Bowl, and they will go from there. But he mentioned the non-conference scheduling as having an important piece in this. Here's who Alabama had in the non-conference this year: Western Kentucky, who they beat 63-0; South Florida, who they nearly lost to and then ended up winning that game 42-16 with a whole bunch of wild touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And then they crushed Wisconsin at Wisconsin. And then, by the way, they also had Mercer, because people forget that the SEC only plays 8 conference games. The conversation is so dumb. I can't believe that they have chosen this narrative. There's a whole bunch of other avenues for them to go with this, but I can't believe that anybody would buy what Greg Byrne and other SEC talent or SEC honks are selling right now. They are basically telling you, fine, we won't schedule anybody from now on. They're holding premier non-con games over the television networks and college football fans' heads when Alabama didn't even play any this year. They didn't even do that. The reason that
the conference,
the reason that Alabama is not in the college football playoff is because they lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. Alabama is guilty of scheduling nobody this year. In fact, the entire SEC is. That conference only plays 8 conference games. Alabama is not out of the playoff because they scheduled hard on games that they had the opportunity to schedule what they wanted in. That is not why they are out of the playoff. They won all of those games, and they didn't play anybody in the process. They played no bowl teams in that category. Alabama's out of the playoff because they lost to 6-6 Vanderbilt and they lost to 6-6 Oklahoma, and they were housed by Oklahoma in that game.
Was not close.
SMU, so comparing the strength of schedule, 1 versus 1 there, SMU's losses were to 2 playoff contenders and double-digit win teams, BYU and Clemson. Clemson actually went to the playoff, well, because they beat SMU, and BYU was in the running for a long time. They won 10 games this year. And just to add to the conversation from the SEC standpoint, the other losses by at-large teams in this field were as follows. So think about this in the context of what you'd be doing if you put Alabama into this. And it's not all who you lost to, but once again, this is the narrative that they decided to go with here. The other losses by at-large teams that made the college football playoff field: at Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Michigan, and then obviously Northern Illinois by Notre Dame and Arkansas by Tennessee. Losing to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt are would have been 2 of the 3 worst losses out of the entire at-large playoff field, right? With the exception of Notre Dame's loss to Northern Illinois, which was a long time ago, and B, they didn't lose any other games, and they did schedule and all that stuff. It's a narrative that doesn't make any sense. Once again, if you feel like you should have been in the college football playoff, fine, but don't tell me you didn't make it because you scheduled hard and the other team scheduled easy. You play the teams that you play in your conference. And ultimately, I like what the college football playoff committee did, because they sent a message to everybody and they said, don't lose games, right? Alabama couldn't control when they lost games this year. They lost those games to bad teams. And of course, they lost another one as well on their schedule to Tennessee, who's in the college football playoff this year by, they beat Georgia, which is a nice win for them. And they beat LSU, which is a nice win for them. But they lost 3 games this year, and 2 of them were to 500 teams. That's why they're not in the college football playoff. It's not that hard to understand. And so the committee came and they said, we can't do this. If we do this, then we're sending the message that the SEC, like we're just telling everybody outright that we think the SEC is head and shoulders better. Like, there are other teams in the SEC that had a better resume to get into the college football playoff than Alabama. Like, I thought it was pretty cut and dry after SMU came back and nearly won the game and lost on a 56-yard field goal to Clemson. And not that that's a great loss, that's a 3-loss team. They had been up and down this entire year, but
they helped themselves a lot in the 4th.
Absolutely.
We'll see if they didn't turn that around as well as they did.
So the fact that we're taking this result and we're saying, all right, fine, I'm going to hold not good non-conference games hostage, and you guys won't get them anymore. Great. You weren't playing them anyway.
Yeah, great. We didn't get it this year.
we didn't get it, And credit Alabama in general. They are generally one of the teams that likes to schedule tough out of non-con, but that is not why they didn't get into the playoff this year. They lost to Vanderbilt, bad. Oklahoma, bad. That's why. So it doesn't make any sense that they went that direction, and I cannot believe that anybody would buy anything like that. But man, I cannot wait for these games in the college football playoff. A lot of them are like 7-8 point spreads, but I don't know. This has been such a weird year in college football. Like if we just got Oregon and Georgia in the national championship game, some people would say, well, of course. But I'd be, I guess, mildly surprised, because I just think we've seen a whole bunch of different things this year. We do have to take a quick timeout. If you want to get in touch, please do so. We'll be back after this on 1620 The Zone. right, welcome back. It is Monday. Connor Happer and Peter Krenzer with you today on the show. As always, feel free to comment in. Travis writes in, the SEC only getting 3 teams in is objectively hilarious. It is. It is. It most certainly is. And now, like, you know, the question is, will the SEC, you know, because we knew that there is going to be a reaction and an overreaction to this. What does the SEC decide? And I don't know why they take it so personally. Like, all this stuff is so cyclical. But once again, everybody gets super reactionary based on who gets money and who gets into the college football playoff and all this stuff. But do they look at this and say, well, all right, if we could just play our schedules and you know, have our best teams not play anybody, manufacture a way to make that happen, and continue at 8 conference games. You know, that could be a downside of this. But I don't know. I just think they picked the wrong route to complain. By the way, there was I just saw this from Reddit College Football. They put up a bracket for the College Football Playoff NIT.
Ooh.
Would you like to participate in the College Football Playoff NIT this year? So
why not?
Alabama is the 1 seed. Congratulations, first team out. Miami, BYU, Illinois are the top 4 seeds. They get byes. Ole Miss and UNLV will play each other. Syracuse and Missouri will play each other. Army and Iowa State will play each other, and South Carolina and Colorado will play each other. If you want a good definition of I mean, we're talking about 12 teams in the college football playoff, and then the best 12 teams, the next 12 teams that were left out of the college football playoff, and thought every single one of these teams at one point thought they had a chance to make it to the big dance. They had a chance to make it to the field. If you want a really good illustration of like exactly what we're talking about here, meaning there are 12 teams that go into the playoff, and sometimes, I think this needs to be noted, we don't have 12 good enough teams that should be playing for a championship. We don't, but this is the playoff system that we have. And so for all the people who didn't make the 12, you have no excuses. It's the easiest it's ever been, literally, to make the college football playoff. So if you felt like you had the resume to be in the college football playoff and you didn't make it, you have absolutely no excuses. And that obviously includes Alabama. That obviously includes Miami and BYU. And the top Big Ten team that didn't get into the college football playoff, that'd be Illinois, which was the 5th best Big Ten team this year. In fact, I'd say that there's probably 4 or 5 of the teams that are actually in the 12-team playoff that shouldn't be in the 12-team playoff. You know what I mean? Like we're dealing with 2 and 3 lost teams here, and if we're talking about the strength of schedule and who you beat and who you lost to, I mean, Ohio State had a really bad loss at home to Michigan
very recently.
And then they lost the other big game that they played in this year, which was against Oregon. Now, obviously, they beat Indiana pretty good. Like, look at Tennessee in that same matchup. Their marquee win is that they beat Alabama. They beat Georgia, they lost to Georgia, and really on their schedule, they didn't play anybody else worth a damn, right? So, like, if we're really parsing through this and saying this is why I should be in, this is why I shouldn't be in, like, everybody else has to be held to the same standard. The fact is that Alabama has absolutely no path that you could take and be like, hey, here's why we deserve to be in, given what our resume was. You didn't win enough games. You have no excuse.
The field's going to expand even more, and there's going to be even less room for excuses.
So I think, yeah, that's definitely a takeaway from me. It's because I struggle with this because I want to find, I want to find an entertaining college football playoff, and I think it's generally good, I guess, that we have 12, but is it watered down? Yeah. Yeah, and we sort of knew it was going to be like this too. Oh, okay, one of the top teams takes a loss or another loss, but it's maybe to a couple of the other top teams, and then they take a third loss to a bad team or something like that. You're probably going to want, the perceived best teams, the brands. We're definitely brand pilled still. And so you look at teams like Ohio State and Tennessee and Penn State hardly beat anybody either. And it just and Indiana, like I find it funny that Signetti, looks around. I think his point is, why are we not the same as some of these other teams? And to that, I actually kind of understand it. But also at the same time, you're sort of like doxing yourself. You're sort of like you're sort of telling everybody, hey, look, nobody has that ironclad of a resume here, with the exception of Oregon, who won every game that they played this year, including the big ones, twice. They beat a college football playoff team in Boise State. They beat a college football playoff team in Ohio State, and they beat a college football playoff team in Penn State, and they didn't lose to anybody. And I'm not telling you that we need to go back to the polls and declare a national champion that way. Like I'm saying, it's generally good that we have a playoff, but it is for entertainment after all. And it's not, I don't know what we're going to get at the end of this thing. And so everyone who's like, hey, well, we should have been in, or we, or hey, take a look at this team. Take a look at yourself too. Like there's just a lot that's in there. The NIT bracket got me thinking about that a little bit. All right. Welcome back to the show. It's Connor Happer Show here on 1620 The Zone, here on 1620thezone.com. Let's get to a couple texts here. Doc writes in, the fact that there's a 3-loss team complaining that they're not playing for national championship says a lot. I'm totally with you. They lost 3 games. They lost 3 games. Oh, scheduling should be like you're wanting it to be even more abstract than it already is, which it's already too abstract, because then we're left to our own devices to try and figure out who the best team is. And yeah, of course, everybody looks at the brands or where you start and things like that. And then eventually it maybe corrects itself. Pedro writes in, hi guys. Anyone in the SEC that thinks their schedule is too hard, they could always go to one of the other conferences. I'm sure that the Big 12 or the ACC would gladly take Alabama or South Carolina or even Georgia. Okay, that would be funny. Yeah, I think they like their they like their money. Look, sometimes a lot of this is politicking too. A lot of this is just stumping for it because you have to stump for it. Like if you're Greg Byrne, maybe he believes half the things that he's saying, or maybe he's just like, hey, I'm the athletic director at Alabama and I have to do this. Like I have to say this because our fan base wanted to get into the college football playoff and they're crazy. And so I have to sort of stump for my school as well. But once again, it's just the route there is, really, really hard to find. All right. Elsewhere over the weekend, and I want to talk about, the Big Ten portion of this as we go on throughout the show today, and Oregon and what they did this year and why I thought it was a really impressive showing from Penn State on Saturday. I thought they put themselves obviously in a really good position. Nobody knew what to think about. They were, they've been the team on the outside sort of looking in from the big dogs in college football. And maybe they showed that they're a little bit game as well, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's go to Orlando. Peter, you love Disney World, right?
Oh, Orlando. Yes, I do.
Okay. How many times have you been to Disney World?
5 or 6.
Oh,
I think 6.
I didn't know that.
I think 6.
Wow.
Probably first trip when I was like 2. Very young.
Yeah, I took the first trip to Disney World when I was young, and then I probably went when I was like, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 or something like that. Haven't been back since, but they say it's the happiest place on earth. And that is definitely the case for one Scott Frost.
He's back.
Who is back at UCF after his short stint with the Rams. So I tweeted on Saturday that I thought that it was cool. I thought what they did with it was cool, and they did the whole Matthew McConaughey, hey, sometimes the only way you can go forward is to actually go backwards. I thought that was good. And he hops off the plane, and
good quote.
Like, you have to understand that people down there think about him in a completely different light and context than than we do here. So, I mean, you got to get yourself into that mind frame a little bit. So I tweeted that out on Saturday night. I'm going to find the responses to it because it was interesting. Let me see. Boy, because I was basically told a lot that I was an idiot for being happy for Scott Frost. Let's find the replies. Here's one. Bleep him. Let's see. Awesome and painful at the same time. I don't think he smiled like that once here. And then the Jonah Hill, like, not this. Don't do this one. UCF is my new favorite team to hate. Can't wait to watch this guy fail again. Horrible take, Connor. He should burn into the fiery pits of never coaching again. I don't.
Intense.
I don't think I've ever seen more people happy for a bleep head in my life. That's why you're an idiot. Shut the bleep up. This shows why NU sucks and will always struggle. This coach destroyed a storied program in a way that's beyond belief through his own actions. Connor should quit commenting on NU football. So those were some of the responses that I got. A nice sampling. As always, you hear from the vocal minority. My hope for him is that he gets himself to a place where we actually get a sense of how good or bad of a coach he is. And yeah, he admitted, I watched the whole press conference. And I think a lot of people around here did as well. He admitted that he feels like he has something to prove. He talked about Nebraska, but not really. He talked about the pressures of coming back to Nebraska and how people were pressuring him to do so. And he mentioned that his father was not doing well at the time, Larry, who passed away in 2020. And maybe that was a point that people made in their courtship of Scott Frost back to Nebraska from UCF in 2017. Somebody else mentioned in the comments that tweet that, and I'm gonna find it real quick. Alex said, it's very weird to say, but one of my most memorable times as a Husker fan was watching UCF beat Auburn in that bowl game. I was so excited about the future. That's how pathetic Nebraska has been in my adult years. No doubt about it. It was a super memorable time at the end of that season. As you know, just I just try and flash myself back, and I think, dang, it was all so meant to. It all felt so meant to be at that time, right? Riley is flaming out. It's not going in the right direction. I don't know if people really liked him anyway. And here's this guy, and he's building a national champion, and it was assumed that Nebraska was going to go out and get him, and people were rooting for him, right? Normally, if you're undergoing this courtship of a coach, maybe you want to stock the fall a little bit. People were like, man, and all the media goes to the bowl game, and that's where the pressure sort of starts. And now that we've had some time, and he talked about this a little bit yesterday, it retroactively, it just really never. I'm just not quite sure if if his heart was ever really in it. And obviously that's bad, and that's something that he needed a lot of pushing when he took the job here at the end of 2017. But it did feel like, and I can't go back and change my feelings in the moment. It did feel like at the time that he was happy to be here and he was excited to come home. But remember, he laid down some ground rules, and he had a newborn son at the time, his first of now 3. And he was like, we're not going to talk about the family. And yesterday, the announcement at UCF was him and his wife, and we'd like to welcome them. And Frost mentioned his 3 kids by name. And so that was a little bit different. He's lighter on his feet. He's looser, it seemed. He talked about the pressures of taking the Nebraska job without mentioning Nebraska by name. And like I said, he mentioned how his dad wasn't doing well at the time. And maybe, like, I don't know if this will ever be a resolved issue for people around here, but maybe it can be. Like, I just don't know if the guy's heart was ever in it. I don't know if he destroyed Nebraska football. He certainly wasn't a good coach here. That doesn't mean he's not a good coach, period. And does it look, I think people sort of feel this way as well. Like, if he goes back and he wins games at UCF, who's now in the Big 12, and it's a different deal, does that look bad for Nebraska? Probably. Because then that'd be the outlier in his career. He's had success everywhere else, and then came back and had more success. And Nebraska completely bombed out. Why? What's wrong with us? What's wrong with Nebraska? And I think it's a relationship specific to him, not a thing that is inherent necessarily about Nebraska. It's always been an interesting relationship with the state and the university and Scott Frost.
And I didn't see Jim Rose's argument. I haven't actually looked at. Theo in the YouTube said, "What's your take on Jim Rose saying Frost should have shown more gratitude to Nebraska in his presser?"
He should have. Is that what he said?
Yeah, that was Jim Rose's argument.
I don't blame him for not talking about. I never expected him to talk about Nebraska.
I can't say I did either. I after taking that time off from coaching and going back to where you were, I feel like you wouldn't want to rehash.
Still a pretty fresh wound, right? And I think, I think he genuinely, he obviously wanted it to work here. And I think in his mind, he tried, right? But it didn't, forgive me if I'm making it sound overly simplistic, because it's not. It's obviously very complicated, but it just didn't work out. And Nebraska's moved on to their next coach, and they're doing different things now, and it's a different landscape in college football. And I don't know, maybe that's just the type of person I am, but I am just like, I'd be excited if he was good again. Yeah, and there'd be something in the back of my head that would say, well, gosh, what the heck happened here then? Yeah, it is a negative reflection on Nebraska if it does work out for him back at UCF again. But Joe writes in, he says it was more about him saying the last place I was at. He didn't even say Nebraska. Yeah, I don't know. When he got to Nebraska, he tried not to mention UCF by name either, and he had really positive thoughts toward UCF. He was like, the last place I was at. I think that's just kind of how he approaches things. But I don't know why. When he
got interviewed after the UCF conference title, when he had already accepted the Nebraska job, he didn't want to mention anything by name either. I think that's just how he's wired.
Yeah, I think I genuinely think he'll win. And like I said, it's a different landscape now. They're in a new conference. There's the portal. There's NIL. It's a different game than it was, but I think he's a good football coach. I just don't think we got him here. I just don't think, I don't think that Nebraska really got him here. And I don't know what maybe we got little breadcrumbs to that reasoning, for the reasoning for that yesterday at his UCF press conference. And maybe the answer is that just his heart was never fully in it. And I'm sure there were people right out of the gate in its time at Nebraska who were probably like, what happened? Why did we leave that? He mentioned, something along the lines of a paraphrase here a little bit. He mentioned yesterday, they forget to tell you to stop when you're happy. And I always felt that way. Like, if there was one thing, and once again, I didn't articulate this at the time, but if there was one thing when he left UCF, it was that he was super happy there, and they were winning, and there wasn't any end to it in sight. And he walked away at the top. And when you come to a new place with all the baggage that's attached to it, and then it's really hard and you lose a whole bunch, your immediate first thought is probably to think, damn, well, what would have happened if I would have stayed? I didn't really see that one through, did I? And I think, that probably didn't necessarily sit well with him either. So I want to get your guys' thoughts, but like I said, I'm happy for him. And I know everything that's been said and discovered and all that stuff since, but it's still a different college football universe after all. And unless there's a bowl game, Nebraska doesn't have to really, cross paths with him, and that's probably for the best. Let's take a quick phone call before we get to Shafe here. It's Rick on the 42 Degrees Source hotline. Hey, Rick, what's up?
Am I on?
You are on, Rick.
You sound. I kind of lost you there. Hey, I got to defend Frost. Oh, I don't have to defend him. He had a brilliant career as a player. His dad had a very good career. His mother was a standout, and he did win a national championship here at quarterback against, I think, Tennessee. But one of the things, not that I need to defend him, but when he was coaching at Nebraska, there was a stretch where Nebraska did not get an offensive holding call against the other team for like 600 plays. And that's almost unbelievable. When the defense was out there, the opponents, there was a stat that it was like 680 plays where there was never a holding call against the other team's offense, which is just unbelievable. And then when Martinez got hurt against Colorado, that obviously didn't help that season. And the other thing is they were supposed to open with Rutgers in the year of the COVID, and then they filed the lawsuit to some extent. And the Big Ten put the whammy on him and made him open with Ohio State. So, he had a little bad luck. I think he's a great guy. And, he was a great athlete. College coaching at Nebraska is tough. We'll see how Mr. Rule does, and time will tell. So thank you for taking my call. Enjoy the show.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Appreciate it. Things definitely didn't go his way, but that wasn't the reason why it didn't work here. I think that, that's kind of what we're talking about. I imagine that will be what this topic evolves into over the coming days, and his presence, what, especially if he has success back again at UCF, why didn't it work? And some dives on that and whatever it might be, but he's not going to probably talk about it that much. And, I always said, even after he left, even after he was fired, there's a good coach in there. There is a good coach in there somewhere. And for whatever reason, Nebraska just didn't get it. They didn't get it here. And maybe it was, they had it for a little while, and they were certainly playing some pretty good football at the end of 2018, his first year here. And then just kind of piece by piece, it collapsed on itself. And then he got to the point where so many other Husker coaches got to, which is when he gets to the press conference, he starts saying things and everyone freaks out every time he says a word. It's like, this is horrendous. This is horrendous. This is horrendous. People take it, people take it a certain way that way. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm happy for him, and we'll see how it works out. I'm very well aware that not everybody shares that sentiment, but I know it seems like there will be some people around here who are rooting against him, even, which I'm not sure. We'll take a quick break. Mike Schaefer is coming up on the other side here on the Counter Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
Come the Guardians.
Yeah, I have statistics to back up that we have people that listen.
Mike Schaefer.
Anytime there's sort of a debate as to who can do something, Happer would always put his name forth, for sure.
Husker 24/7 on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
I could be a star.
All right, joined now on the 42 Degrees The Source hotline by Mike Schaefer of Husker 247. Schaefer, good Monday to you. How are you doing today?
I am doing well, Connor. How are you on this delightful Monday morning?
Lovely. I was wondering, so since you have the, your little emoji guy for the recruit, like the Cruton, the shrug guy, do you
Shrug
have?
man?
Will you have a portal shrug man?
No, I mean, Shrugman kind of just can operate in any sort of recruiting environment. I mean, I could look into this and see if we can find a portal specific emoji. I suppose that it's going to be a big enough part of college football moving forward. It doesn't need to be lumped in with the other one. So that's fair. I'll look into it. What I like about it is that it was the old school one. Like, it's
it's actually made out of like dashes and slashes.
Right. And so do I have to update? Like, should I find a new school one to go for the new vibe of college football? I mean, that's sort of the big decision here, I think.
Or you could copy and paste the shrug man over to the portal as well and just say, Cruton.
Portland.
Cruton.
It's Portland.
Portland. Would you have assigned Mr. Shrugman to the Emmett Johnson situation?
I probably would have.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like we've discussed this before. And I know, like, when it happened and I basically gave my opinion on it, it comes off as sort of spin or some version of homerism. And I also want to mention that I think it's a good thing that Emmett Johnson is coming back. But I never felt like this was going to be an irreplaceable piece should he have decided to leave. It actually made a lot more sense to me from Emmett Johnson's perspective to stay, where he has a leg up in this position. It's a program that, I think he's well liked and valued there. I think he was probably able to renegotiate an amount of money out of all of this. And it's all deserved. It's just that I think he's a pretty good running back. I think we fall into this trap of believing that guys who are solid for an average to below average Nebraska team are sometimes better than maybe what they actually are. But look, having them for the bowl game doesn't hurt. Having him for next year doesn't hurt. I just hope there's another step to his game. I mean, I know we saw him play very well at the end of the season. Maybe an entire year with Dana Holgerson can unlock that. But I also need to see him hit some long runs, hit some home runs, hit some, just go from being like a better version of Ramir Johnson to being like a, legitimate Big Ten running back. Like that's kind of where I'm at with it. And I know that sounds insulting and I wish that it didn't. But that's sort of how I felt when he went in. That's how I feel that he's come back too.
The new terminology out there is people are saying that college football players are agreeing to new deals and they're returning to their previous schools. I wonder, maybe you could have put Emmett Johnson right in that category. I wonder when that will happen first to Nebraska and what the reaction will be to enter X player here agreeing to a new deal to return to the school.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be all that unusual.
Definitely not.
I don't know how far away we are from basically there's just independent arbiters that have to determine a player's value. They'll submit their value. The NIL collective or Nebraska will submit its value. The independent arbiter comes through. It's just going to be like baseball.
Arbitration, something that everyone very much understands and loves in baseball.
Yeah. It'll be great. We'll have even more lawyers involved in sports.
Perfect. Hey, so you mentioned how when people leave from Nebraska and they're pretty fine players, and then they go elsewhere, and then all of a sudden you feel like it's a huge loss. Looking at the 247 transfer portal at this very moment, Prince Will Uman Mielen is the best player in there. He is a 4-star transfer portal guy, 94 overall. And then we saw that Jamari Butler is down to, some big time programs and in his place. So I don't know, that might refute what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of went through this with Ernest Hausman. I think there's and the difference with Ernest Hausman and Prince Will is that Ernest was actually contributing at a much more higher level and volume than Prince Will did for 2 years. And again, like I don't want to act like they aren't talented players that are leaving from Nebraska, but we're talking about a difference of projection and production.
Yep.
And Prince Will for 2 seasons was a nice role piece for Nebraska. He had created some hurries. He did some nice things defensively, had 7 tackles for a loss. I have little doubt that he's going to be a good college football player. But what 24/7 Sports is doing by making him the number 1 player in the current transfer portal is just betting hugely on the projection. I mean, it's
well, he was a good recruit, and then he didn't do anything in Nebraska to be like, well, he's definitely not that guy. So he goes back in just 2 years later, and bang, the projection's still there.
I would argue that James Williams is a bigger loss for Nebraska for 2025 than Prince Will was. Now, maybe it's going to play out entirely different when they're somewhere else and playing for different coaches, theoretically, or, in a different conference and with different teammates. But I just, it's hard for me to get overly worked up about all of this because Nebraska is going to have their opportunity to add players. And we're going to do this thing where it's like, okay, they're going to get a wide receiver and, we'll talk ourselves into that this is a really big difference maker. And maybe it will be and maybe it won't be. But a lot of it is so, much conjecture and hype. And I get that we do that in recruiting. I get that that's my entire industry. I understand all of that. But it just feels different when it's the portal. Like coming off of Isaiah Nair and Jamal Banks, who were both really solid players, but that's what they were. They were solid players. Like I don't want to fall in this lapse where everybody Nebraska loses is going to be a star and everybody Nebraska brings in is going to be a star. Chances are it's going to be somewhere in the middle. And I'm trying to take as level-headed of an approach as I can as they go through what's going to be a really weird transition here.
Yep.
Bringing this roster down to the 105 number, trying to set themselves up for what feels like both a critical year, but also kind of a rebuild year for Nebraska football, or a reset year, if you will. And so, I think a lot of it is just like people have to figure out how to manage mentally the idea of players coming and going, and that not everyone that goes in, not everyone that comes out is going to be a star. Like there's just going to be a lot of solid to good players in there. And that's important. In Nebraska, you're hoping to develop those and to find some of those. But it's also just imperative that we don't just completely lose our mind over them.
So let's check in on that real quick, because Rule had said when he got here, we're gonna have to do some things in the transfer portal. We'll lose some guys, we'll gain some guys, and then of course that's going to certainly be the case this year. But he always said, hey, we're gonna have a core and we'll be developing that. What is the status of Nebraska's core right now? Like, what is the core of Nebraska's roster right now? Or is this particular situation, as you just mentioned, a little bit different, and that they're going to have to be even heavier in the portal this time around?
I think the future for Nebraska, I mean, I wanted to believe, I felt like this, I think Matt Rule wanted to believe that they could be a developmental, incremental grow program. And I think there's going to be a large element of that, but it can't be everything. It can't be what I think he wanted it to be. It can't be what it was for him at Baylor. It just doesn't work out that way. I mean, I think part of being a developmental program is that you're willing to take some guys and spend some time and know that maybe on the front end of their career, you're not going to get much. But in 2024 and beyond, James Williams is a perfect example. What did that red shirt do for Nebraska in 2023? You found a guy that can help you at times, but you only got to use him for 4 games. What is the Riley Van Poppel red shirt going to be going forward in 2024? You're betting
agree
on a year that you aren't guaranteed to even use. And I wrote about this today, and it all kind of works into where mentally Matt Rule has to make a shift. Nebraska has to make a shift. Yes, you want to be developmental. You want to be able to turn good players into great players. That's going to be true for every program. But what you can't do is bet on the future that isn't promised, especially if you're Matt Rule right now, because there's no guarantee that the freshman that you signed in the 2025 class that you want a red shirt that either of you are going to be here in 2031. So or whatever, 2030, whatever year that would be. So it's just one of those things where I think redshirting needs to go by the wayside. I don't know that Nebraska can be a program where you take a guy and you have 3 years to figure out if he can help you out or not.
Yep.
There just has to be a very different mental approach. And I think Matt Rule can make that transition because he coached in the NFL. I think he understands the immediacy probably better than a lot of college coaches will because of his experience working in the NFL. But how is he going to transition to that in his player procurement? How aggressive is Nebraska going to be in terms of adding pieces in the portal? What does that mean in terms of trying to keep your best players? All that, remains to be seen and what their approach is. And when you ask me what Nebraska's core is, I can't even give you an answer.
Wow.
Because it's an ever-evolving thing. And like what their core is today, it takes one guy to go into the portal a week from now for everything to shift. So it's just it's a little tenuous. Like they kind of have to come on the other side of this and then have a plan moving forward, because I just think we're at an inflection point with college football, and how Nebraska handles it can really determine its short-term and long-term future.
The redshirt thing, and I know you wrote about this on your morning mash today, but like I'm with you. There are specific, like some certain instances where it's like, okay, you're not going to play anyway. And
or the guy doesn't get to 5 games. Like, that's going to happen.
Yep.
But Carter Nelson is a great example to use that, I didn't really mention in that piece, but they chose not to redshirt him. And that's the right decision.
Right.
Because even if you didn't get as much as you hoped out of Carter Nelson, banking on a 5th year that he may or may not be around for seems meaningless at this point.
Yeah, purposefully putting a governor on him just so you can get an extra year out of him when you don't know that extra year is going to be served here. It just seems counterintuitive.
Right. And so I just think like that's kind of the route that you have to go forward. And now there might be a guy, I don't have anyone in mind in particular on Nebraska's roster, but let's say Caleb Benning. We'll just use him as an example. He ends up redshirting. I'm pretty sure he didn't play in 5 games. I'd have to go back and check. Probably should have known that before I said it. But let's say Caleb Benning. He redshirts. He benefits from the fact that he didn't have to play this year, though maybe Nebraska could have utilized him more. And then in multiple years' time, he's the best version of himself, and he still stays at Nebraska, and he's able to collect some NIL money, and he has a nice career. Like, that can absolutely happen. I'm not saying that you're never going to take advantage of a red shirt. I'm just saying that betting on it at the beginning of someone's year, or beginning of their career, and thinking it's definitely going to pay off feels like a fool's gold errand. I think you have to situationally decide, is there value out of this freshman? Can Cortez Mills give us, 12 games, even if it's only 25 catches? Are we getting more out of that than if we decide, well, what if we just maximize them for 4 games in the bowl game? I just don't see how that's going to work moving forward.
All right, Shafe. This will be a fun week. Let me know when you get situated on the new shrug guy, or if we just run that guy back.
Yeah, I will. I'll probably test a few things out.
Okay.
Send you some. You can be my feedback on this, and then maybe we'll unveil it here later this week. Have a good day debating the 13th team in college football.
I know. It's so stupid. Would you care to comment? You have this avenue. You go ahead.
Yeah.
I really love how we're talking about bad teams making the playoff.
I think it's pretty obvious. Like, there's no leg to stand on if you can't beat 6-6 Oklahoma or 6-6 Vanderbilt. You scored 3 points against Oklahoma and you gave up 40 to Vanderbilt. Doesn't matter who SMU played or who, none of that matters. Go win football games. Like, it's just, there's so much narrative-driven BS that now we're trying to watch college football turn into the NBA, where the results don't matter. It's who can have the best argument in conversation.
So it's just applying it to the wrong thing.
They play literal football games.
Yeah. And it turns out there was only a very selective amount of teams who won the requisite games to be in position for the playoff this year. Alabama wasn't one of them.
How much time we have? I have a real quick tirade.
Go for it.
A playoff doesn't exist to determine the team that you think in your brain is the best in sports. It doesn't exist to determine who's the most talented roster or the best overall program. It is a parameter-based tournament in which its entrants are selected by criteria, and then the results are what they are. UConn won a national title multiple years where they were the best team in basketball. They've also won multiple titles where they weren't the best team in basketball, but they happened to be playing the best basketball at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make them any less of a champion. It doesn't make the playoff any less. That's just how playoffs are. Sometimes teams like the New York Giants win the NFL, Lombardi trophy, and no one thinks they're the best team. It's just what happens. That's sports. That's why we play games. Everything else just is so dumb. I don't want to lose this sport to narrative-driven crap. Like, leave that for the NBA. They can own that.
Yep.
Everyone else, the results should matter, and people should care when the games are on. And I think they do, but it's every day of the week where the football isn't being played that we have to have all of these awful, obnoxious conversations about college football. When the games are on, they're fun. They're fun to watch. SMU Clemson was great. Oregon Penn State was great. Or I said SMU. Yeah, SMU Clemson.
Yeah.
I mean, Texas Georgia was kind of ugly, but it was still entertaining. Like the football, the actual sport, when they play the game, we have to remember, like, that's what we really care about. The rest of this just sucks. It really does.
We should start the process of shunning the entire SEC. Can we just not listen to them anymore? That'd be awesome.
I've been trying for years. Usually people have just shunned me. That's the problem. I've been shunned so much that nobody listens.
All right. That's a new hashtag. Started up with your shrug guy. Hashtag shun the SEC. We're not listening to them anymore. We don't care what they have to say.
I love it.
Have a good week. See you later.
Yeah.
Mike Schaefer, Husker247. You can check out all the latest in the portal comings and goings over there. We'll be back with Peter Mahan's Odd News next on 1620 The Zone.
And now we've reached the point in the show where Josh Odson reads the peculiar, the bizarre, the comical, the odd news with Odd Son. Odd news, Odd Son. See what we did there? The odd news with Oddson.
All right, red alert.
Red alert.
Nitro Tuggle is in the portal, and I need a guy named Nitro Tuggle right here in Nebraska. Think of the T-shirts.
Think of the NIL.
Just think of the T-shirts. Every time somebody has an interesting name, I think of all the T-shirts and all the people who make T-shirts in this state and the fun that they would have making the T-shirts. On the other hand, he had 3 catches this year. So
better than 0.
Good point. Good point.
The pure entertainment factor may just be worth it.
He's a transfer from Georgia, where he was a 4-star prospect in the class of 2024, the 123rd ranked player nationally. All right, Peter, man, what do we got? What are we cooking today?
So I'll preface this by saying the time that this show was just me and John Schreiner and we did 2 segments of Soccer Talk. I'm not going to do 2 segments of Soccer Talk. This is soccer related, but I will not go on long about it.
Are you expecting me to have a take?
I would like to hear if you've seen something like this before, because this could apply to any sport really. But yesterday in the Chelsea game, one of the players that started slipped twice, leading to goals for the other team within 12 minutes of the game starting.
Ouch.
I have never seen anything like that where a player falls down twice like that. He ran over to the sideline, changed his cleats, and within 5 minutes assisted a goal.
Wow. So it really was just
like
the cleats.
A total 180. And I was like trying to think of
he wore the wrong cleats.
Yeah, he hated these cleats so much. He like took a picture after the game of them in the garbage can and said, sorry about that.
It is almost the time of year where everybody starts to complain about the various fields of play at the bowl games and things like that. Also, you see that like early in the year when they play the games at weird places, like, oh, the footing's wrong because this is normally a soccer field. Well, yeah, that makes sense. Like when they play the games in Ireland, they're like, yeah, this place wasn't really built for 300-pound like dudes, just pushing each other and really digging it around. Like it's made for 150-pound dudes just kind of running all over the place and spread out, not to have so much weight on one spot and so much digging in and stuff like that. But yeah.
But I've never seen such a quick change in level of play from just changing the shoes.
That's it. Sometimes
maybe
it's that
it is
easy.
just the shoes sometimes.
Sometimes it's that easy. You got to put yourself in a position for success. That's all.
All right, so that's the end of the soccer talk. So whoever hates soccer,
thank you, Peter.
We're ending it there.
I thought that was an appropriate amount of soccer talk. It wasn't too much.
I am wearing my Chelsea jacket today because it was a big win yesterday.
What's going on in your shirt? There's a soccer player on that too.
Retro World Cup shirt from 1994.
You kids these days have such interesting shirts. Put that put that in a quote somewhere.
Interesting.
Kids these days have such interesting shirts. There's always something going. There's always like some messages on your shirts. You're always trying to say something.
For the most part, I like to have simple shirts, but I thought this one was pretty cool. It's like It's like 8-bit video game style.
I like it.
Pretty cool. Pennsylvania for the last couple odd news stories here.
Both of them.
Yeah, PA, busy week there. On the topic of getting back together, Scott and UCF, a Pennsylvania couple divorced in 1975 is getting back together to remarry.
Oh, what a great story.
Can you imagine getting back together with someone who you were married to all these years later? Nearly 50 years.
How long were they married before they divorced in 75?
So their original marriage was 1951 to 1975.
Wow.
4 children together.
Wow.
And they declined to discuss the reason for the divorce, but they both did remarry. Those spouses passed away, and they tied the knot again yesterday. And they are 89 and 94 years old.
Wow.
They wanted to run it back.
Wow. You were always the one. I wonder I don't know. I wonder how common that is. I certainly
I
haven't
don't.
heard
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not. So, and this is another tidbit: 14 grandchildren, 14 great grandchildren, and twin great great grandchildren.
Yeah. What if you were one of the grandchildren who's like, Grandpa and Grandma got married again?
Yeah, this is like, what do we do?
We finally brought the family. So like do you lose all of the rest of your family that you've gained throughout, like, because they went off and had other families?
Yeah, they had multiple. They each had their own new marriage.
Like they're just out.
Are they just?
And then we consolidated the family back into one. What an interesting Christmas it might be.
Because it said that they remained friends throughout the length of the divorce, and I wonder, were the other families on board with this? Were they like, you guys are hanging out a lot? This is a little weird.
I don't know. You just be happy for them, I guess. That'd be my response.
You know what? They're 89 and 94, good for them.
So. Jordan writes in, is this for life insurance policies? Could be. Hey, but they're actually doing it. There's no fraud there. You know, there's nothing nefarious going on there. Strigori wrote in, worked with a guy whose parents divorced 3 times and married 4 times. Like the same people, they married and divorced each other 4 times.
Interesting.
Hey, look, I'm not here to
each their own.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so
more
then
Pennsylvania.
The other Pennsylvania story, someone synonymous with the state, Mr. Rocky Balboa.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that they started Rocky Day last year. That was the first official Rocky Day. And then this year it has converted into a week-long Rocky Festival.
Okay, Rocky Fest.
Various fun activities going on. The one that I thought was interesting was the Rocky Adrian lookalike, which we've seen a lot of those taking off the lookalike contest. Yo, Adrian. So this, that now it's gotten to the Rocky sector of things with with the lookalike contest. Some of these are pretty good. I will admit, some of these are pretty convincing.
I didn't know that would be the next person. The first one we talked about on the show was Timothy Chalamet, I think, who had a nice weekend on College Game Day.
Yeah, he blew up this weekend with his football knowledge.
And then there was another one, I think, I can't remember what the other one was. And now we've arrived at Adrian from Rocky, who I don't even know the actress's name.
I can't say I do either, to be honest. I probably should, but
that's cool.
The winners.
She doesn't have any lines in the entire franchise.
Yeah, really.
So
She's kind of just there.
You don't have to do an accent or anything like that.
The winners were a NYC firefighter named Jason and his wife Roxanne. They were very excited. I wanted to do something because we're the biggest Rocky fans. I mean, just look at us as they're dressed in this attire.
I believe you. Thank you. Congratulations. You won. Nice job by those guys.
So they had a full Rocky Day.
Way to go. All right, Peter. Thank you. Thanks for checking in on Pennsylvania a couple times as well.
Big update in PA.
The noon hour is coming back. I want to hear from you all. 402-951-1620. Back with more next on 1620 The Zone. If you were traveling this morning in the area of 204th and Dodge Street, you might have saw something kind of cool. Those giant cell towers that are placed all around the city, or the radio towers that are placed all around the city. There's a whole pack of them at like 72nd and up north by Benson Golf Course up there. They took one of those down this morning at 204th and Dodge. So the video is from NSP Troop A day shift. Thank you for your patience this morning during our quick closure of westbound Dodge at 204th to ensure the safety of this tower demolition. And I love videos of demolitions, Peter. I don't know if you knew this about me. I love watching old structures blow up, like purposefully.
I did not
purposefully in a purposeful way. Chance. So I like controlled demolitions, I should say. And so watching this giant tower fall over on 204th and Dodge Street, Chance is was different. Not something that you normally see. I realize now that I probably shouldn't have phrased it that way. Thank you. Did you see the video?
I did not see it.
It's out there.
I will look it up, though.
Go check out that video. We should have a segment every day on the show called Go Check Out That Video.
There was a building on Lincoln's campus that they did that to.
Catherine Pound.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Catherine Pound. Oh, I watched the crap out of that.
That was.
I was all up in that live stream.
People were all over that.
I was super in that live stream. I was fired up to be in that live
super
stream.
Chat.
Yeah. Oh, if they would have given me an option to do a super chat,
$20 donation, Connor. I love this.
I would have super chatted. I would have super chatted for sure. No doubt about it. All right, welcome back. Noon hour here. Connor Happer, Peter Krenzer with you. Would love to hear from you all on the show today. 402-951-1620. We're keeping an eye on the transfer portal. If you have tweet notifications on from like Max Olson, your phone is blowing up today. He's tweeting about everybody in the portal. Mr. Booty is back in the portal. General Booty. I shouldn't say Mr. Booty. General Booty is back in the portal. There's quarterbacks all over the board that are in the portal. Officially, guys who quote unquote entered the transfer portal last week for Nebraska are now finally, officially in today, including Prince Will. Jamari Butler the portal was open for Jamari Butler last week because he was a graduate, but a guy like Prince Will and James Williams, they had to wait until today to officially go in. And the other thing that I find really funny that is like, we're so used to it by now is the day. It's just like NBA free agency. When guys go into the portal, they officially go into the portal on this day. Last year it was later than this, a few weeks later than this, but they officially go into the portal on this day. And then they within minutes, hours, seconds, come out with their top three. Here's my top three. And they're like, how'd you know that already? Well, they should really just call it the legal tampering period, just like they do in the NBA. They really should. Our friend Platt Cat writes in of this one of my favorite gifs. People get mad at me for saying GIF. When they blew up, it was in Atlanta, or maybe it was in Detroit. Whatever it was. And I reference this one all the time. They had the live web stream camera on the bridge blowing up whatever sports arena it was. And then at the exact second when they hit the go button, the bus drives by. The MARTA. What city is that in? If it's a MARTA bus, what is that? Is it in MARTA bus?
Is that ATL?
Yeah, I thought it was maybe Atlanta. Yeah, there you go.
Looks like that. Yeah.
Yep. All right. By the way, saw Platt Cat at the Jays game on Saturday. He thanked me for hating Kurt Signetti early, and then he put in Indiana to make the college football playoff, and he was able to profit on that quite sizably. So congratulations to Platt Cat. Hey, let's talk about I want to get to Emmett Johnson and the portal stuff with him in just a couple minutes here. Talk about the Big Ten championship game real quick. So Oregon just steamrolled their way through the Big Ten, their first Big Ten season undefeated on their first run through. They beat Ohio State. They beat so it's not like they played nobody, right? They beat Ohio State. They beat Penn State in the Big Ten championship game. I guess they didn't get Indiana, but they beat Illinois. Like you can go all the way down the list. I mean, they had a bit of a gauntlet and they beat everybody on it. Had to survive a couple times, winning close at Wisconsin. So I saw out there a lot the narrative that like, man, the Big Ten, the old guard of the Big Ten cannot be happy that Oregon just ran their way through the conference on their first attempt. That can't make the old guard. I guess I don't really identify with the old guard of the Big Ten. In fact, I guess I would side with Oregon a little bit. So we see this sort of split. I'm definitely not mad that Oregon won the league. I'm definitely not mad that Oregon went undefeated through the league. I'd be pretty freaking happy if Oregon became the new Ohio State of this league, to be honest with you.
Like, wouldn't you want to be like, oh, look at this addition we just made. They are good.
I think it's cool. Like, if Oregon takes the play, if Oregon Wally Pips Ohio State, like if that's the thing that happens, I would be absolutely great with that. I think that would be a welcome, fresh change. I think Ohio State and Michigan are the snooty, I get my way because this is how it's always been teams of this league. The only people that should actually be upset by Oregon doing what they've done this year is Ohio State because it threatens their existence, right? It threatens their standing in the Big Ten Conference. They're the big bad team in the Big Ten, and yeah, they are placated too. They get their way a lot, and they're snooty about it. And when they say that they don't want to play noon games anymore, and they don't want to have their games called by Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt, and the All-America girl, Jenny Taft, they mean it, and they might get their way. Or at least there would be a nod to them next year. Okay, fine. We'll give you some NBC games. We'll give you some CBS games, whatever it is. Just don't be mad at us, Ohio State. Like Oregon doesn't get that treatment from the league because they're brand new and they won't, but they will, they still ran through the league undefeated this year. And obviously all this stuff is cyclical and this is a 1 year overreaction, small sample size thing. But I think I loved watching the Big Ten championship game without Ohio State and Michigan. It was the first one in what? Like 7-8 years? It was the first Big Ten championship game without one of those teams in a long time. It was probably since Penn State went in 2019? 17? And they played, I think, Wisconsin that year. Because Ohio State won a few in a row, and then Michigan won a few in a row, and here we are.
First Big Ten championship since 2016 that did not feature Buckeyes or Wolverines.
There you go. Did you enjoy that? Did you feel like it was like I felt like it was better? And obviously the game lived up to the hype. It was a very good game.
I very much enjoyed it.
I was impressed by Penn State.
Flipping between that and ACC, I was having lots of fun.
We'll talk about them. We'll talk about Penn State here in just a second because I think they helped themselves out this weekend. But I really thought it was a breath of fresh air for the conference to have those two teams in the conference title game and to not have it be this, this slog of, here comes, and it's, some of it's based on how you play football, but, Michigan wasn't the flashiest of champions over the last couple of years, even though they did win the national championship. And Michigan is still Michigan, right? They're snooty and I hate them, right? And it's the old guard of the league, and the way they play football sort of reflects that a little bit as well. Same thing with Ohio State, a little bit, although they were certainly more flashy when Urban Meyer was the coach. Now they've gone into a little bit of a shell, thanks to their rosy-cheeked head coach, who I don't know what's going to happen with him over the next several weeks here. But I thought it was a real breath of fresh air for the conference, and you got a great football game out of it. You got a lot of points. Points were up close to 80 in the game. So I thought it was cool. And once again, if it's Oregon, who's the new Ohio State of the Big Ten, I'd be super welcoming of that. I'm definitely not mad about it. But I wonder if you pulled other fan bases. I wonder what they would think, because even if you're not Michigan, or maybe even if you're not Michigan or Ohio State, maybe you consider yourself part of the old guard of the Big Ten. Maybe if you're Iowa, you consider yourself part of the old guard, and you just like things a certain way. Maybe if you're, I don't know, Michigan State or Purdue or Illinois. Like I don't know what their preference on this is, but I thought Oregon winning that was, and more specifically, I think running through the season the way that they have, undefeated, beating all of the big brand teams in the conference. I thought that was a win for the new guys a little bit, and then. We saw SMU be in the ACC championship. We saw Arizona State be in the Big 12 championship. It's a shakeup, and I don't know if altogether it's great for the sport in general, the conference shakeups that we've had this year. But conference championship weekend looked a whole hell of a lot different, and there was this freshness to it. We talked about going into the weekend how the games didn't really matter, with the except the SEC game didn't really matter that much, the Big Ten game didn't really matter that much. But then you look around and you're just like, well, these are kind of different. I kind of like it. It's usually Oklahoma and somebody in the Big 12 championship game, and it's usually Oklahoma against whoever's making the run that year, whether it's Baylor or Oklahoma State or whatever it might be. And you know what to expect when you turn on the Big 10 championship game. And it was on a new network this year, right? It's usually on Fox, and it usually includes one of Michigan or Ohio State. It was just a little bit different, and I thought that was fresh and fun and exciting for the league. Speaking of that, I was pretty impressed with Penn State. Even though they lost the Big Ten championship game to to Oregon, I think they may have been one of the biggest winners of the weekend. I thought they looked game. My question with them was always like, all right, is your quarterback play? First of all, what are you doing with your quarterback play? Why are you doing so many different things? And why do you seem to be in your own head so much when you play Ohio State? Still a question. But, they sort of proved to me that they belong in that top group of teams in college football. I thought they looked pretty good this weekend. They have some real athletes, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And I thought Aller made some throws. I hadn't really seen... We knew he had the arm. We knew he was really talented, but I thought he made the throws this weekend too.
And some people like Joel Klatt think that with their performance, they kind of maybe got a better draw than Oregon did.
Well, they got put in a good spot, that's for sure. Klatt. I saw Klatt having a hissy fit about that.
Yeah, he was real mad.
Klatt was like, "Well, what the hell? I guess that's what you give her losing the Big Ten championship game." Well, this is something that we've talked about a little bit this year. Like, maybe it's not the worst thing to be the 5 seed. Maybe it's not the worst thing to be the 6 seed. I will also note that we just got done talking about how comparatively weak the top teams in college football look like they are this year. I mean, Oregon is the only ironclad thing in the field, really. Georgia is a multiple loss team who won an SEC championship and is the 2. Boise, like, would you feel that way if Penn State's next game wasn't against Boise and it was against, the winner of the Big 12 and the winner of the Big 12 was 12-1, like if it was 12-1 K-State or something like that? Because that 6 spot, you're always going to go into the next game is the 3, right? If you beat the 11 seed, which I like Penn State over SMU, but we'll see. So the 3 is always going to be the first conference champion that's not from the Big Ten of the SEC. There's noticeably a drop off after 2. Always. That's kind of how it's always going to work. So what if next year we get I don't know, hell, Colorado or something like that. They run through the Big 12 undefeated. Would you be saying the same thing if it was Colorado sitting there and they had a much better record than, a Boise team? Obviously Boise had a good record this year with their one loss to Oregon, but Arizona State, just kind of making it happen at the end of the year this year. I just want to remind people that this stuff is cyclical and it's not always going to look exactly like this. But I thought Penn State was one of the bigger winners of the weekend. That's for sure. Here is from the Equitable Bank inbox, a couple of things here. Zach says it's better for the Big Ten to have Oregon win a national championship. That would mean 3 different Big Ten programs won a national championship over the last decade. That's much better for the perception of the league than back when Ohio State was the only national champion contender. Yeah. I mean, I tend to agree with that. But like I said, there was a lot of people who were saying, boy, I just don't. I bet the Big Ten brass probably feels like their core has been changed a little bit by the fact that Oregon just came in from the outside and ran. The Big Ten can't be happy about it. Obviously, the Big Ten should be happy about that. Oregon is in the conference now, and they're going to stay in the conference. Here's Chris on the Equitable Bank inbox. He says, Oregon did what we wanted to do, exactly how NU Nation thought it was going to go for us in 2011. Oh, yeah, the Big Ten's new bully? You're talking about Nebraska, the Big Ten's new bully? Didn't end up going that way, did it? Remember that Sports Illustrated cover or whatever it was, Peterman? I still see that every now and again. With what was it? Sam Bradford.
Things that aged poorly.
Jared Crick and who was the third guy on there on the front cover of that? It was an Oklahoma guy, a Nebraska guy, and
Andrew Luck's on here.
Andrew Luck. Yep, I remember him wearing maroon. And Andrew Luck. And it said Nebraska, the Big Ten's new bully. Didn't go that way. They were treated to a stark reality in Madison, Wisconsin in their first Big Ten game. Things have gone a little bit different from Oregon. And remember, they have some company, too. They have some company with some other teams that are entering the league. And they have some company with some other teams that are entering other leagues as well, right? This was a big shakeup for the sport this year. And that's why I keep coming back to I think the playoff is probably going to bear that out a little bit. I think it would not be fitting for the season if at the end of the day, Georgia just won the national championship. It's like, oh, well, they're the most talented team. Of course they're going to win the national championship. I think that we have learned a lot this year about it not always being played on paper. Something that Schaefer talked about.
I was just going to say Schaefer mentioned that.
Something that he just talked about in the last hour there. It's not. If you want to talk about talent, and you want to just let the most talented teams in the field, then why even play the games? Why even play the games?
That's why we have the playoff.
That's you have to meet a certain standard to get into the college football playoff. Although that does seem to be a bit of a moving target. Here is Michael on the text line. Oh, Michael has a Creighton text. This is good. Connor, why have we not touched on the Pop Isaacs news, and does that change this year's expectations at all? I felt this team goes as far as Pop can take them, even with Kalkbrenner, since we've already seen games already where Kalkbrenner could be a non-factor on the offensive end. Also, how bad was the Nebraska loss on Saturday? I'm a skier, Jay, and what the hell? And that was a hard loss to swallow. How does this change what we can expect from Nebraska basketball this season? It doesn't change, or does it change at all? No, I don't think it changes what I mean. You kind of just got to throw it out the window and for Nebraska and go back to work on the next one. If you believe that every game is a reflection and a reality of where you're at the moment, then you are not feeling very good about Nebraska basketball right now. But it's a basketball season. Sometimes you just have huge duds. I don't know. TBD with Pop. I want to talk about them a little bit later on in the show. We'll probably get to them in the 1:00 hour. For right now, this is clearly a game by game thing. The hope is that they can get what they got out of guys like Isaac Trout and Mason Miller on Saturday, Is it repeatable? I don't know, but I do feel like they've been in a couple situations like this before. They've always found a way somehow. Maybe they get a good break along the way somewhere, but I think there's a certain amount of confidence that they'll be able to find a way. And they had a lot. Well, they had a lot on their plate in terms of guys that they could play too. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for them to, have that cut back a little bit. But obviously, Pop was, a huge part of what they did in the beginning portion of the season. And obviously, a big part of what they did to beat Kansas last week. Speaking of which, he was named Big East Player of the Week. Even though it was announced before their most recent game, which was last week on Saturday, that he missed the remainder of the season. That's right. Pop Isaacs is the Big East Player of the Week. All right. We'll take a quick break. I wanted to come back and talk about Emmett Johnson real quick and his entry and exit the portal. We could talk about the Pinstripe Bowl as well. We could dive further in on the local basketball teams and things of that nature. Sam McEwen is still going to join us as we go on throughout today's show. It is a Monday here on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. there's a new number one in college basketball after Kansas lost not just in Omaha last week, but also in Columbia on Saturday. Kansas, by the way, dropped back to number 10. New number one in college basketball is Tennessee. 8-0 Tennessee. The only, they got to be one of few high majors left to still be undefeated. Florida, 9-0. Oklahoma, 9-0. Nobody else inside the top 25 at the moment. That doesn't tell you the entire story. Creighton not in the top 25. Neither is Nebraska, by the way, for the record. But this is the week, I forgot about this, where the stat comes out, and I just saw it for the first time. Every single national champion since 2003 has been ranked in the top 12 of the Week 6 AP poll. All right?
Interesting.
Every single national champion since 2003 has been ranked in the top, at least in the top 12 of the Week 6 AP poll. This is the Week 6 AP poll. So, your national champion will come from this group in college basketball. Tennessee, Auburn, Iowa State, Duke, Kentucky, Marquette, Alabama, Gonzaga, Florida, Kansas, Purdue, Oregon. Sorry, everybody else, you can't win a natty.
It's over for everyone else. You might as well stop playing.
Creighton will, Creighton has already played Kansas. They already played Purdue in a charity exhibition. They will play Marquette twice, and they will travel to Tuscaloosa to play Alabama this coming Saturday. And they were supposed to play Oregon in the Mega NIL tournament, but then they had to, and then the NCAA or whatever came in and they were like, hey, in order for this to be a real tournament, we have to actually make it a tournament. So you can't just have 3 random games. So they made it like a bracket play. And then Creighton didn't get to play Oregon because Oregon won both of its bracket pool play games. So there you go. There's our college basketball, national college basketball update of the week. Whoa, that was a bad week for KU.
Yeah.
Bad week for KU.
Not following up the Creighton loss by losing to your big rival.
They get the court stormed on them twice, and they get Mr. Brightsided.
Yeah, Mr.
Twice.
Brightsided. Not once.
Yeah, did you get Mr. Brightsided this week? If you're a Kansas fan, do you feel Mr. Brightside?
I appreciated the Missouri staff trying to make it as clean as possible with the beat KU on the big board.
Beat KU. Yeah,
they did their part.
Yeah. There's only so much you could do in situations like that. All right. Nebraska-related news from over the weekend. A couple things. First, Emmett Johnson. Oh, boy, did this cause a stir last week when Emmett Johnson went into the portal. Because people were like, why? Well, why? Don't you think his best situation is probably, even though he's got problems with it, but don't you think his most clear path to significant playing time is probably here? I think it led to mass confusion. Then this weekend, he did a couple different videos. He did like a quick. That guy knows what he's doing on social media. I think he did a quick like stinger video of like I'm back. He did the welcome back. Welcome back. He did that one, and then he did he wrote like a poem or a sonnet. I don't know what a sonnet is, but he wrote something and about how he loves Nebraska. Either way, that's how he announced that he was coming out of the portal, which for the record, he was never really in. He was never actually in the portal. He just announced his intention to go into the portal, which he was never able to officially do because the portal wasn't open for Emmett Johnson because it wasn't today yet. So I guess I have a question. Obviously, this is just as it was not devastating, but still bad news to lose him. To gain him back, it is good, but not like the best thing and not the best thing in the world. And certainly not a bad thing either. My question to you all here, and I want to hear what you think about this because I'm genuinely curious. We live in a different world in college football, and I think we can all read between, connect the dots, read between the lines on sort of what this was. I don't know, but if you connect dots, you'd probably be able to say, well, that's a guy who was probably, angling for a little bit of a better deal and went into the portal or declared his intention to go into the portal and then had a message out, or his team had that's always new in college football as well, college athletics, as well as team agents, things like that. Had the message out and said, oh, let's work on this. I think we could probably make this happen. And then it happened. Whatever needed to happen happened for Emmett Johnson. And yes, we live in a world where now in college football, guys sign deals. There was some new language in the reporting on some portal guys over the weekend from various places that they weren't returning to their school. They weren't returning to their school for the love of the game or, whatever. They love the fan base at the individual school. They were returning to their school because they had agreed to a restructured deal, a restructured contract of some sort, which is, I'm not going to get over that one anytime soon. And that one's always going to be a little bit different. So we live in a different world. We've been adjusting to this world for a while. And especially with the roster cuts this year, more people are going to leave Nebraska. A lot of people have already. Guys that you would have preferred to not have leave your roster, like Jamari Butler and James Williams and Mekhi Bear and Emmett Johnson, but now he's back. There's more. Even a guy like Kai Wallen. You'd like to have the people that gave you something last year and that have been relatively established players in their roles over the last couple of years. And it's hitting Nebraska a little bit now. And so when a guy has the situation that Emmett Johnson just had, which is he briefly went into the portal just to come back out, and think about him as a person who I think, by my estimation, had a pretty good relationship with the Nebraska fan base. People were Emmett Johnson kind of became the Nebraska fan base's guy. It's like, where's Emmett? I still think they got to get Emmett Johnson going. People would come up to me or message me or whatever and say, well, why don't they just play Emmett Johnson all the time? He's just sitting right there. He makes plays. And so I think he kind of has become a fan favorite. But then he goes into the portal. Does that change anything? Does that change how you view players? Maybe this is a good test case to sort of figure that out. My sense is no. My sense is no, but this is why I'd love to hear from you guys on it. My sense is that it doesn't really change anything, mostly because this happens in December, and it's almost like we live in a fake world. It's almost like this is just December, and then whatever happens with the roster happens, even though it's all important. You get to the point where it's, spring ball rolls around, or June rolls around, or July rolls around. And then the roster is just completely new, and you're like, okay, this is what we have to deal with. It's almost like the time that we're in right now is happening separately from everything else. So maybe it's just forgotten. Or maybe not. I'm curious to hear what you guys might think of that. 402-951-1620. You can call us, text us, of course, on the 42 Degrees of Source hotline. Here's a text before we get to a call real quick. From the 402. It doesn't change how we view Emmett. It changes how we view college football and NIL doing what it's doing to college football. Well, everybody already thought that. And you could talk to any single person in college football and they'd tell you the system that we currently have in place is, it's on its last legs because we're going into the revenue sharing period of this thing, which is, we'll have things that more closely resemble contracts and things of that nature. Guys can't just, hop in the portal willy nilly. But we'll see what happens with that and what kind of guidance we get on the NCAA. But I don't think you can find anybody who's involved with the sport right now who's like, oh yeah, this is a great system. This is perfect. I think I love this. Yeah. That's not new though. Let's take a quick call here from the 42 Degrees of Source hotline. Here is, random Mike. Hey, Mike, what's going on?
I like you. I like Sharp, but boy, you guys are pissing me off. That's exactly why Emmett Johnson probably did what he did. He didn't feel he was getting the respect that he deserved. I mean, first of all, in the playing time, which he was getting later, but we don't know what's going on with his financial situation. We don't know what the negotiations were like. I have no idea. This portal stuff, and Jamari Butler, could he come back? He could, right?
Yeah, anybody can come back.
Yeah, and he did once before. I don't know if they know at this point what they're going to get next year. I admit I don't know. Apparently, you don't either. But I did tell you there was a decent chance when I was hearing that, Emmett, that it wasn't final, that he might come back if they take care of it.
To be clear, like Mike, I thought that too. I was with you.
Yeah, but it's Sharp this morning. Yeah, he's good, but he's not great. Why say stuff like that? He's very good, and he's a sophomore. He's got 2 more years. He was better this year than last. And when he got a chance, I mean, it's all about, we want players that beat people, that win their battles. And if you look at who won their battles when given the opportunity at any position, he's right near the top. I mean, he's had so many plays this year, and especially toward the end when he got to play more, where he's getting the most out of a situation, or he's the first guy's not tackling him. Sometimes the third or fourth guy wasn't.
So do you think
does that mean anything?
If he would have gone into the transfer portal and stayed in the transfer portal, what do you think would have been a market for him? What kind of deal and what kind of place is he going to end up out of that? Because I don't feel like he would take that huge of an upgrade from leaving Nebraska, to be completely honest with you. Like, that's sort of where I'm at.
Yeah, and that's obvious from what you're saying. But we don't know what he was offered at Nebraska to stay. My guess, look, if he was offered a similar amount to the other running back, how would he feel about that? How would you feel about it if you're him? If we're going to treat you guys pretty much the same.
No, like it's not like from a money perspective. I'm glad they took care of him. If that's indeed, it kind of seems like it, right? I'm glad they took care of him, but I'm saying he's not going to go and be the starting running back at Texas next year. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not that's not the type of player he is.
Okay, take Iowa for example. They had one of the best running backs in the country, right?
Yeah.
He seemingly got it all. Well, in that game, because there was that one play, and I'm not taking any away from it, but in one game, who was the more impressive running back over the course of that game? I mean, seriously.
Well, the one play made a pretty big difference, Mike.
Yes, it did. It was a screwy play. Can you take one play out and just look at the rest of the game? Who was the more impressive running back?
I don't know. The one play was the game-breaking play. Like, that was the flipping play.
But you had our greatest player killing one of our other players that was tackling him.
Yeah.
It was a fluke play.
That is true.
That was part of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely part of it.
It was a weird play. No, full credit to him on that play. No, and trust me, I know how good he is. But Emmett was more impressive in that game against a good defense that was trying to stop it. The Wisconsin game, that's one of the biggest games in years around here. That finally got us a bowl game. That was Emmett Johnson more than anybody else. He was fantastic in that game.
Yeah.
And how many tackles did he break? I mean, I don't understand the lack of respect. How great is he? He's really good. And he's probably going to get even better. But he's got something that we were sorely lacking on this team. And even at the quarterback position, that vision thing, And that's what Dana was talking about. Hey, find the holes. And if you're a quarterback, find the open guy. And he was clearly better than the other running backs at that. A lot better than the guy that was getting more playing time.
Definitely the best one that Nebraska has, for sure.
Yeah, right. And you even said, well, maybe we don't want to take for granted what we have. We don't want to lose it. But this attitude of good, not great. He's really good. And how good will he be? He's probably going to get even better. But in terms of the money, I think he would have been offered a lot of money, and I think they did take care of it. But he's the kind of guy, strikes me, that the money is not just him, but it's respect, but it's also taking care of your family.
Sure, you know? I'm like I said, I'm glad they took care of him. Yeah.
But when Sharp says good, not great, why talk like that? He's really good, and he's the best we got, and in a lot of big games. Trust me, Wisconsin, the week before, they almost beat what could be the national championship. And they probably should have. They were trying to stop him, and he made them look bad. Yes, did they have an injury or two on defense? Yeah, every team does. He's really good. As far as the basketball team, I'm not giving up on him.
No, I wouldn't either. That was a bad day.
It was. But the thing I love, and by the way, you are such a breath of fresh air when you've been gone for a few games for the women's basketball team, and you got to admit there were a lot of great assists that you gave credit to.
There were, and that's all because of you, Mike. I owe that to you.
But why don't you get the others to do it? Does the Creighton guy do it? I don't think so.
No, I don't think Jake does. I don't think so. Maybe I'll keep that one for myself. I like to be selfish with it.
But the men's team, trust me, we could play Michigan State here and beat them. I really believe that. And Izzo's fantastic, by the way. Vince Lombardi, mother's maiden name. Random trivia here.
Vince Lombardi's mother's maiden name.
Mother's maiden name
is Izzo.
Was Izzo. Izzo. Yeah.
So you think he's in the? Related. You think he's in the Lombardi tree?
I think so, and he's a great coach. I mean, it's pretty. But if you're an official and it's a close call, and you're at Michigan State. Who's going to get the call? I mean, there were some. Look, I mean, it's just tough to beat him there, and he's getting older too. And he's a guy that could retire at any moment. And he's thinking this could be a team, right? That this might be his final national championship. And they were fantastic there. But like Connor, did he score a point?
Did who score a point?
No, the Connor on the basketball team.
Oh, Essentian. Yeah. Well, you got a flagrant. We know that. Yeah.
He got that right.
Yeah.
But no, do you agree? We could play him here. I don't know if we do and beat him.
I don't know. Probably. I don't think they're that good. Like I don't think that they're they always get better at the end of the year. Mike, thanks for the call.
You got it. Take care.
All right. So a lot covered there. Obviously, I would not be willing to say that 2 days after Nebraska got beat by 40. By Michigan State on the road, that if they played each other here, that Nebraska would win. Not quite willing to go there yet, but sometimes you just have bad days, and Nebraska certainly had one of those. Let's take a quick timeout. We'll get to another call here on the other side. Still want to hear from you all. You can send us a tweet on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed at Connor Happer at Happer Show. Back after this on the Zone. have spent the better part of the entire show debating on whether we're going to eat the 2 donuts that are left in the box.
We've just been staring at them.
Yeah. It's like I'm close. I've been close for a while though.
Now that we've reached the lunchtime.
Yeah, I might need a little power up here in just a couple minutes. But welcome back. It is the Connor Happer Show. I need to find a way to tighten this. Have you noticed this, Peter? By the way, if you're watching with us on ZoneTV.live or at 1620 The Zone TV, you'll see how I go like this basically the entire show. That's because if I sit and I leave this right here, the mic just, you see that?
It just slowly.
And there it goes. And then by the next second, I'm hunched over, and then I got to try and talk like this.
Yeah, we got to figure out who can do that.
By the way,
is it a little DIY? Could we figure it out?
Yeah, there's probably just a screw that we got to tighten up here, but we'll try and figure that out. What did you think? What did you think of the milking of the release of the college football playoff show on Sunday morning? Thought it was great. Loved it. Thought it was awesome. They just waited.
Great use of time.
Hours and hours and hours and hours, and then they're like, "Here's the bracket. We'll reveal the bracket when we come back." And then, of course, they start. It's all situational, right? They start at the top this year because everybody knew what the top teams were going to be, and there was no drama there whatsoever. And then we have to wait all the way till the end just to reveal the one spot that people care about. And then Greg Byrne could do his tweet about how the SEC is better than every other conference, and they'll never schedule any good non-conference games again, even though that has nothing to do with any of this. Fantastic. We love it. We love college football. People just politicking all the time.
Were they just angry that their bracket had a detail leaked for the first time?
Oh, yeah. Great point. We need to shout out Brett McMurphy.
Mr. McMurphy beat him to the punch.
Great point. Thank you.
I think that came in like maybe 2 minutes before they went live.
I'm really happy you mentioned that because Brett McMurphy, on top of tweeting every bowl game announcement or every bowl game thing. So this Brett McMurphy, former ESPN employee, by the way, tweeted at 10:59 on Sunday morning that he said, "Breaking: SMU is in the playoff and Alabama is out." The ranking didn't come out until it was probably closer to the bottom of the hour. I mean, he basically scooped ESPN on this entire thing, or maybe he didn't scoop them, but he found out the information before ESPN was able to release it, which is truly, truly funny. All right, a couple more minutes here in the segment before we get to Sam McEwen from the Omaha World Herald. Let's go back to the phones. Here is Rick on the 42 Degrees Source Hotline. Rick, is this the same Rick from before?
Well, sorry guys. Yeah, not to backtrack a little bit, but
no, this is a different Rick. That's good. I just wanted to make sure you were a different Rick than before. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, this was just calling for the first time.
Okay,
so.
That's good. That's good.
Thought they said.
Backtracking a little bit about the portal, you guys were talking about Emmett Johnson and whatnot, and it kind of got me thinking a little bit. And I don't know, you guys probably know better than I do, but you would think that what are some of the nuances and as far as jumping into the portal? Is there any legal documents? Is there any paperwork that they have to jump through and jump out of? I mean, it seems like it's for Emmett, it seemed very simple. They jumped in and jumped out. I was just wondering, is there any legalities involved in it? Who's helping navigate that? I mean, it just seems like it was so easy, and with the lack of transparency now in college football, whether it be the NIL money, the portal, how many years you get with COVID and whatnot. There's just so much gray, not a lot of black and white. And I felt that same way when it comes to to some of the regulations or nuances of the portal. Is it just simply, hey, I'm throwing my name in? There's got to be some legality now with all the money and whatnot, and it just seems way too easy, for so much liability on both sides, whether it be with the university or the player. So, wondering if you guys know what those nuances are, or could touch on that.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Appreciate the call. You might be disappointed to learn that it's really, I mean, as far as I've come to understand it, it doesn't seem particularly complicated. You basically send a notice to the school through a compliance director or whatever it is, and then I think you get like an email back or something like that. It's like you're in the portal, and now in Emmett's case, and then it gives you the ability to be contacted by other schools, that people can contact you no matter what. Your phone's not restricted once you walk on campus. And I'm sure Emmett was obviously dealing with a lot of that, because remember, with Emmett, he wasn't in the portal. He was never in the portal. He just declared his intent to go into the portal. He was never in the portal. He just declared his intent to go into the portal.
People think he's in the portal. He wasn't in the portal.
He was not in the portal. He was never in the portal.
He just spoke of the portal.
So he could come out at the beginning of the season next year and say, whoa, I was never in there.
I don't know what it's like in there.
I don't know.
It seems scary, and there's a lot of people in there.
It was never in the portal. But no, I mean, Rick, like, it's pretty there's not a lot to it. There as far as I've come to understand it. I mean, I don't think people really, and you don't even really have to think about the decision that you're making anymore either, other than maybe the relationship to your teammates or the people on campus and stuff like that. I don't know if people care about that anymore either, because let's be honest, a lot of times when guys go into the portal, especially before the portal's even open, it's just an attempt to get money. It's just and I'm not saying that was the case with Emmett, but like, it's just it's an attempt to see what your value is and see how much you're worth, and to see if anything. No, we've seen a lot of guys over the years. They just play the game. They play the game the right way, and the wrong way, but they're doing it the right way to get the most out of themselves. And so no, it's not that hard. Maybe we'll talk to a student athlete, and see who has entered the portal, and see exactly what that process looks like, because I haven't understood it to be too complicated. Okay, we're hitting the caller bingo today here on 1620 The Zone. Here's Nebraska ball, Mike. Hi, Mike.
No, I'm not going to start any rumors, I promise.
Okay.
Emmett Johnson coming back is a big deal. We need a lineman to come with him, or a lineman to come help him. It's interesting when you watch these games and you realize, targets we were after are somewhere else playing in the national championship playoff.
Like Jeff Sims.
I was thinking about Brandon Baker being in Texas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That big old boy. Also, what does Senior Day even mean anymore with people leaving every year?
You could get some flowers.
Like, couldn't you do it for like basically the whole roster?
You could do, yeah. You should be able to do Senior Day whenever you want to. You should be able to do Senior Day after your sophomore year now.
Yeah, this is gonna help us a lot. We probably need one more, and then what, we got to fix on the O-line like everything, but they'll get it done.
You think so?
I think they will.
Okay.
I think Dana's dead serious. He wouldn't come here. He didn't have to come here.
What'd you think?
I think he wants to fix this.
What'd you think about Nebraska ball this weekend?
Ugly. We need to do better.
Yeah, it was not a good
performance.
performance.
It was Michigan State and not Northwestern, like Illinois felt.
Yeah, that we hadn't really seen a no-show from them this year, and we got it.
I just think they were steps slow, and once Michigan State starts making everything at home, good luck.
Yep, tough to stop. Thanks, Mike.
All right.
So Nebraska was Ken Palm does it by like quarters. They have the like game probability thing too. Nebraska basketball. So this is the first 10 minutes of the second half, aka the third quarter of the basketball game. They were outscored 27-5. That's a bad way to start the second half, ladies and gentlemen. Not great. Not great. All right. We'll take a break. We'll talk with Sam McEwen from the Omaha World Herald next on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back. It's Connor Happer Show here on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Connor Happer, produced by Peter Krenzer today. We're joined now on the 42 Degrees of Source hotline by our good friend Sam McEwen from the Omaha World Herald. Hi, Sam.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. How was your weekend?
Pretty good. Yeah. It was relatively quiet first weekend without college football in a while. Covering college football.
Right.
Yeah, Bears stumped it up.
pretty normal.
I was like, that was the worst half of professional style football I've seen in a long time from the Bears.
And it's the Bears. So the standards are
like, this is bad.
The standards already pretty low. It's the Bears.
Oh yeah. I was like, whoa. Rough. Anyway, fine. It was Chiefs won again. I don't care about them. I'm tired of them. It was a weekend. How's that? Now we've got the Pinstripe Bowl.
I was gonna ask your excitement level for travel to New York City around Christmas time and New Year's.
It's gonna be an interesting trip. I think obviously logistics are going to be challenging for fans, and you feel for them that way. Fans will probably come in on the 26th and the 27th, and leave right after. You do wish there was, that it wasn't a city that's celebrating something else, which it does the holiday season simultaneously. If they need the Music City Bowl, there's places to congregate. In New York City, I suppose you go to the Husker bars and there you go. But, I think Nebraska's got an opportunity to win. I think the team they're playing is actually pretty good at times, but they played in a weaker league. And so I'll be curious to see how Nebraska manages that. And, it's a good team to play. I think there's some, if Nebraska had made it to the ReliQuest Bowl, let's say they beat Iowa 13-10 and now they got to go down there and play Alabama. I don't think that's anything anybody would have wanted to see once the game kicked off. But I think Nebraska's got a chance to beat Boston College. I think a win is important in these settings, and there's an opportunity for that. And, we'll see where they go with in terms of assistant coaches and other things like that, because that's in play as well.
You wrote about the playoff field a little bit. It's sort of in the context of how it can inform Nebraska and sort of what their future plans are as well. Your thoughts on the process of the selection and what type of teams got there and what they sort of did to make themselves viable for it, and the lessons Nebraska could take as a result of it.
Well, it's still a process that I think is probably a little in flux. One of the challenges that the committee had this year is it just didn't have. It had all these 3-loss SEC teams that kind of took turns beating each other, and it didn't have that. It didn't have that extra team that could kind of fit the bill with Tennessee. Alabama probably has a resume good enough to make the playoff, but SMU made it instead. And I understand that. Losing to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, neither are great teams. If Oklahoma had been better, maybe that's a more understandable loss, but it wasn't a terribly understandable loss. So, I'm sure the SEC's frustrated. What you learn from Nebraska is that every single team that was in the playoff had, double-digit wins, including Clemson, which made it by beating SMU. And I think the average number was somewhere around 11.2. So you're going to have to win a lot of football games. 9-3 in the Big Ten is probably not going to cut it unless it's a very specific 9-3, and you're losing to really, really good teams, and you're losing by very close margins, and then you're also beating some really good teams. So, that's something I think to watch going forward. Nebraska had an opportunity this season. They were 6-6, but you can close your eyes and click your heels and imagine a 10-2 season if some other things had gone a different way. And one of the key takeaways I had is over the last 2 years, Nebraska had a top 20 scoring defense. 10 other teams did too. And Nebraska's record was 9 other teams did. Nebraska's record was 11-13 The second worst record was Iowa at 18-8. So it gives you a sense of just how much Nebraska squandered two really elite defenses over the last two seasons, with one-score losses and with just mismanagement and poor play in the final minutes of games. They're really still working on how to finish, and that's something that that's still a growth area for not only Dylan Raiola, but just the program in general.
Yeah, people sort of think or I don't know. I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but like Nebraska will have a different looking roster next year and a different looking coaching staff, and there will be a lot that's a little bit different about the program. So the hope is, as a result of that, they're able to rid themselves of some of whatever affected them to not be able to finish these games. I know you look at it through like a football lens all the time, or you tend to, at least that way. Like, do you see that as a possibility, as a step to Nebraska heading in the right direction and being able to be better in late game situations with all the new things they'll have?
I do. I think some of the games that Nebraska lost by one score, they should have been winning by 10. So some of it is, they should have been able to put Iowa away. They were a better team than Iowa for much of that game. And, the goofy thing with the punts, you got to put Iowa away when you have an opportunity to do it. You're up 10-0, third quarter, go score a touchdown, and that game's probably over. Iowa's probably not going to bring 17 points with that offense, but you got to go do it. And they didn't do it. And so some of it is Nebraska just needs to play better earlier in the game. I think as the time goes on, they've got to come up with some late game strategies. And I think some of it is that Rule needs to work with Holgorsen, and they need to come to a meeting of the minds of how they want to operate. One thing I think about Rule a little bit is, he's trying to really manage the clock in a very specific kind of way late in games and bleed it down and, again, do the thing that the Chiefs did last night to the Chargers, and, kudos to the Chiefs. But Patrick Mahomes is really, really good at doing that. And Andy Reid's become an expert at that. And I think it's just hard to do with a team that hasn't won.
Oh, there's so much trust there. It's all trust.
Yeah, exactly. And so Nebraska has to develop that. And I think Rule's got the right ideas, but let's just be clear, Connor, in both circumstances, there's fewer than 20 seconds left in the Nebraska-Iowa games in 23 and 24. And Nebraska's committing a turnover at midfield in both circumstances. Like, you're just not giving yourself any time to get anything done. And there's just a lot of weaknesses there that they haven't been able to work through. And, in both circumstances, those games should have went to overtime. And you really have to have, your quarterbacks have to have awareness of what's going on in that moment. Nebraska wasn't scoring at the end of that game 2 weeks ago. They weren't. They were at their own 40 or whatever it was. There's 16 seconds left. I'm like, this isn't getting done. Like, shut it down. Go to OT. You're not very good there, but at least you have the football and you have an opportunity to win. And you're not 45 yards away from a field goal opportunity. So, I think there's some things that they need to work through and think through, and Nebraska does need to get better in overtime. There's one area where in the offseason, spend a lot of time thinking about 1st and 10 from the 25 and how you improve your offense at that part of the field, because you're going to play one overtime game a year, and you got to go win it.
What do you think we're in for this week as the portal turns, Sam?
Oh, you're going to see many Husker players likely leave. Some are probably going to stick around for the bowl and just see what their opportunities and their chances are. So you're not everybody, but I do think you're going to see some walk-ons go and a couple of receivers or potentially some defensive backs, positions that we're not surprised by. I think, they'd love to hold on to all the quarterbacks they have, all the tight ends they have. They might lose one. I think they'd like to hold on to the running backs. You might lose one there. But there's guys that have to go, and they probably already know that, and they've got to try to figure out a landing spot. A lot of times when guys go into the portal, they don't want them to go in just, what the hell. They want them to have some options when they go in. Nebraska tries to help in this way, and so I think that's part of what the deal is. Hopefully, the guys that go in are able to find football programs that suit them and suit their goals, and hopefully that's going to happen. And so I think there's going to be a little bit of matchmaking and things like that. Nebraska wants to help some of these guys out. Simultaneously, Nebraska needs to begin the process of getting players out of the portal too. Linebacker,
yep,
receiver, potentially a tight end if you lose a tight end. Pass rusher. Need a pass rusher. Need a pass rusher. Prince William Yellen was up and down, and I know he was inconsistent, and I think he frustrated the coaches, but that kid's got talent, real talent. And you got to find a way to replace him. And the stack man was up and down too, but he had a very unique skill, and that unique skill was he was good at it. So you've got to go out and find some guys that can get after the quarterback, because I think you lost two guys in Newman Yellen and Williams that were pretty good at doing that, and two of your best four. So Nebraska's got to go out and look.
Should Nebraska fans be allowed to dream a little bit as it pertains to guys that they might be targeting in the portal, like some of the top names out there at various positions?
Yeah, I mean, they certainly can. I think that some of the top names may not be the best fits for Nebraska. Vice versa, sometimes they will be. So you've got to try to do the best that you can to figure out the players that are going to be the best fit for you. Certainly there's going to be some offensive tackles that are very hard to get. Offensive tackles are probably the leading, money getter, maybe a quarterback, but they don't need a quarterback. They need they could use an offensive tackle for darn sure.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to pay for that guy. And, you have to figure Texas has got the money to pay for them. And so that's hard to say. I mean, how much money does the collective have? What can you promise in revenue sharing? Are you willing to pay $1 million or more for an offensive tackle? Because that might be what it takes. And they just lost Bryce Benhart. We don't really know what Turner Corcoran's situation is going to be. And Teddy Prohaska's coming off another knee injury. So you've got Gunnar Gatula. You feel good there, but then you've got question marks at your next two guys. And then the guy after that is Grant Seeger and Grant Brick. We don't know much about them. And so, there's going to be some real searching, I think, in the portal for the right offensive tackle. I don't know if you can go get the highest priced one though. And the guy at USC probably becomes the number one guy.
Yeah.
He just went in an hour ago, but he'll probably end up somewhere that's got a lot of money. Maybe Nebraska has the money. It's hard to say.
What would you expect to be, do you have any sense of like a timeline for the next coaching thing, which I guess we assume is, finding a defensive coordinator, or maybe you have one under your nose already, or naming, I guess, a defensive coordinator. Is there any sort of timeline, do you feel like, on this thing?
Well, if you feel like if the guy that you're trying to go after is in the playoffs, then it's going to be weeks, because they're not going to distract from that. If the guy that you're going after is, currently just kind of operating as either an analyst or is out of a job, then it could be this week. And if it's John Butler, do you kind of want to see how things go in the Pinstripe Bowl before you say he's your permanent DC?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe so. So I don't know that one needs to come together like right this second. And the other question is, if you don't hire John Butler as your DC, is John Butler going to stick around? Because again, he's a coordinator type, and he's got to, is he going to mesh with whoever comes in? And they're going to want to work together, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. So those are all questions that I think Rule has to sort through. The reality is, I think any defensive coordinator who is a defensive coordinator in Nebraska already knows that Matt Rule is going to be heavily and intimately involved in that side of the football.
Definitely.
He's going to be involved. So the reality is Matt Rule can work with a lot of different people in that setting, and I think it'll be fine. I think whoever that person is going to be like, yeah, I know the head coach is going to be in my ear, and I know that we're going to have a dialogue a lot, and we're going to have to work through agreements and differences, and so long as the candidate is cool with that and also cool with getting a really nice paycheck at the same time, I think they'll have a pretty good setup no matter who it is.
All right, Sam McEwen from the Omaha World Herald. Sam, as always, appreciate the time. Have a good week.
Take care.
Sam McEwen from the OWH. He, as always, had his I don't know, was it branded as a rewind this week? Not quite, I guess. He just kind of had a column about the playoff bracket and NIL and portal needs and things like that. A lot of which we covered there, but you can go check that out at omaha.com. Always intrigued to hear Sam's thoughts on a variety of different topics. We don't ask him about movies as much as I would really like to, because he's a movie guy. Peter, as I know you are as well.
I guess whenever I come in on Mondays, I could talk to him about some stuff.
Oh, he's
fellow movie guy.
He is a movie buff for sure. All right, so let's take a quick time out. We still have a couple things left to cover here. And we'll, as always, hear from you all. 402-951-1620. Back after this on 1620 The Zone. right, the engagement farmers have gone too far. This is ridiculous. So, sitting in the break there, I just flipped open the IG reels just to see what's popping over there, what's going on. And something caught my attention immediately. It was a lovely looking stack of something that they're calling cinnamon roll pancakes. Pretty self-explanatory. It's pancakes, but they look like pancakes. So they taste like cinnamon rolls, I assume. You drizzle the little frosting on there, and then bang, it's a stack of cinnamon roll pancakes. Sounds amazing, right? All right. So what's the next thing I do, Peter? The recipe should be very easily accessible, right?
Please show me the recipe.
So this video from, I'm going to click on this just to make sure. This person has almost 400,000 Instagram followers. Peanut butter and jelly beans is who created this, Peter. And I'm mad at peanut butter and jelly beans because she said, not a link to the recipe, not a link in bio to the cinnamon roll pancakes, but instead, what you have to do in order to get the recipe to the cinnamon roll pancakes, which is of course easily accessible on the internet, but I want it given to me right now. Says for the full recipe, comment pancakes, and I'll send you a link to the recipe.
Gatekeeping the recipe. Making us do extra work.
This video has 6,500 comments. I would imagine 6,000 of which say simply one word, pancakes. And so there's no way that peanut butter and jelly beans messaged every single person on Instagram who commented, over 6,000 people, the link to these cinnamon roll pancakes. There's no way that happened. This is a scam. I feel scammed. I liked watching the video. She did a great job with the content. I'm very interested in the pancakes, but now I'm angry.
And then
because
boom,
Instagram got me again. It's not fair. It's not right.
And we were saying that's way more work for the person who posted it.
Of course it is.
Here, let me send you 6,000.
It's incredible engagement farming because the more comments they get, the more that's the cough button. The more comments they get on the video, the more engagement, the more eyes they figured out the algo, right? So why doesn't everybody comment on this and say pancakes? And then I'll get my video. It worked. It has like 200,000 likes. People are geniuses, but idiots at the same time. I'm mad at peanut butter and jelly beans. Ethan writes in on the text line, when are we going to stop the sports talk and just be a food take show? Great question. But don't the cinnamon roll pancakes sound pretty good? I mean, objectively, that sounds good, right? Nobody could have such a bad food take and disagree with that, right? I know we got Matt McMaster in the morning now, and he's got some takes about various foods, but I think even he would say, cinnamon roll pancakes? Those sound sweet. That sounds amazing. Hit me up with that.
Seems like a good holiday variation of pancakes.
Brandon writes in on Twitter, welcome to the old man complaining phase of your life. Oh, Brandon, I've been here. I've been here, fam. I've been here. I've been complaining all throughout my life. Travis wrote in before I even explained what it was. OMG, is it one of those where they want you to comment so they DM you the recipe? It's so dumb. It is so dumb.
Travis is aware.
It is.
He's over it.
Travis gets it. All right. Couple more minutes here. Should we talk about some local basketball? I mean, there hasn't been. I've been surprised at the lack of portal news throughout the show.
I did
today.
just see something in the YouTube before we get to that. Sorry.
Oh, what are they saying?
Star Wars Fiend asked me and you about.
Oh God, hold on.
Alec Boehm news. The Royals trying to trade for him. I haven't really heard anything concrete.
He has been a.
I've heard that rumor for a little bit.
Yeah, he's been a name that's been out there for a little while. They got Jonathan India. They could still go out and get another guy, but they did say. Now, once again, this is all just you're trying to put yourself in a position where it makes you look good for your fans. By the way, I'm watching the winter meetings right now. I flipped on MLB Network secretly because I was sick of watching. Morning show had it on NBC, and the only thing that they could talk about on that channel is the guy who killed the guy in New York.
Oh yeah, they have apparently ID'd who it is now.
It's the only guy. It's the only thing they could talk about. Seriously, they were talking about 4 straight hours. So I turned it to Major League Baseball Network, and now they're at the winter meetings. And so the Royals did say like, "Oh, we're looking for a middle of the order bat." It's like, no, you're not. You got your leadoff hitter. You got Bobby Witt Jr. You got Vinny Pasquantino, and then you're going to try and run it back with MJ Melendez, even though it won't work. And that is what you're going to do. Just admit it. I'll be right until I'm proven wrong. Anyway, local basketball. So, Pop Isaacs, even though he's the Big East Player of the Week last week, out for the season. I wonder, and I don't know this. I wonder if he maybe had an idea going into that Kansas game that it was nearing the end. The doctors were basically like, "Hey, man, you gotta get this taken care of. Otherwise, this is gonna be a problem for you." And so it happened. He had a great game on Wednesday night, obviously against Kansas, and then come to find out on Saturday morning that he's gonna get the surgery and he's gonna get it taken care of. And so Creighton is without one of their 3 bananas, at least what we thought was going to be the 3 bananas to start the year. Ryan Kalkbrenner, as Creighton, won the game pretty handily on Saturday. And by the way, it was no guarantee that they were going to. I took it upon myself to really watch Ryan Kalkbrenner for probably about 5 minutes of real time. I did not like what I saw. Meaning, I'm not talking about him as a basketball player. He's frankly incredible for doing what he's doing right now. He is not having a good time. He is not having fun right now. He has a very specific injury that is not good, and he's grinding through it somehow. I'm not sure how he's doing that. But watching him get up and down the court at this moment is very painful. And I didn't like the 5 minutes where I just watched him individually. He's having a tough go of it at the moment. So you have that. Ashworth is, just getting over the sickness / you still got the ankle thing from a couple weeks ago.
Good Lord. Just
and so they're asking, like, it's I said it earlier, but it's kind of a game by game thing right now. The hope is that they can get, they started Mason Miller, and I thought Jemiah Neal was really good on Saturday against UNLV. And by the way, he was good in the minutes that he played against Kansas too. So maybe it feels like he's at the right mix of confidence and playmaking and all that stuff. So maybe it feels like Jemiah is in a good spot right now, but you're looking for a few threes and a couple hustle plays and good enough defense out of guys like Isaac Trout and Mason Miller and Jackson to heat it up at whatever point in time. It's kind of just it's a piece it together game by game thing at the moment. Is it repeatable what they did on Saturday? I don't know. But like I said earlier, I will say that they always seem to find a way. And I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to have the rotation pared down. Now, forgive me because it's I don't want to say that losing Pop is in any way a good thing. It's not for Creighton. Now, he supplies a heavy part of the scoring load for them, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to have sort of forced down slimming of the rotation. And man, it's led to good things for them in the past. All of a sudden leaning on some guys that you didn't expect to be leaning on. And then you kind of find out who they are. It happened with the Baby Jays a couple of years ago with Trey and Kaluma and Nemhard and those guys. And then those guys grew up really, really fast. They won an NCAA tournament game that year. Right. So I don't know that this group is that. There's a little bit more experience behind it, obviously with the anchors of Kalkbrenner and Ashworth, but super curious to see where this goes. I have no idea. I got no idea what we're going to get on Saturday against Alabama. That's a really good team. That's a national championship contender. Creighton's just probably not at that point. And then they got to get healthy as well. And every time the whole Fedor thing, by the way, has completely broken contain. Every time you talk about Creighton basketball, it's like, hey, Fedor, is he coming?
Hey, but
so maybe we need to run a promo on this station until further notice, and it just says, I don't know anything about Fedor. I as of right now, he is ineligible. I think that's the story. I don't know when he's coming back. Is it possible, or when he's going to get eligible at all? He's practicing. There was some movement on that over the last couple of weeks. That's what I keep telling people, but they don't know anything, and we don't know anything either. So, and then people ask like, okay, well, why? What's the holdup? This is all speculation. My guess would be is that they're treating his situation with a special with special care because of his resume for professional basketball and how many games he's played. And they don't want to set a precedent that guy could just come over right away and play as, he could be a freshman and be a contributor, be one of the best guys right away. Now you could always make comparisons to what that is similar to a freshman, whatever, but it's not. It's different. He's older, and he's played a lot of professional basketball at this point overseas. So I would stop short of having a guess as to when that timeline might be coming into fruition. But I will say the NCAA, I think, takes everything into account. And they look at the entire situation, and then, maybe at the end of the day, they just say, okay, half a season, that's good, and then go from there. I don't know that, but I think they take everything into account. Or there's another player on the team who was, who's you caught a stroke of bad luck with Pop going out for the year, and so maybe this is something where you wake that thing up. Or I know the NCAA would tell you, no, Connor. That's we look at this in a vacuum. Yeah. It's not about any of that. It's not about any of those things. But I don't know, the politicking and extenuating circumstances and outside circumstances, they have always kind of seemed to matter in cases like these. So no update. We'll get the promo running shortly. But people always love to talk about Fedor. Alex and Lincoln writes in on the text line, I'd like to talk about Caitlin Clark over Fedor.
Interesting.
People want to talk about the Caitlin Clark thing. They always want to talk about the Caitlin Clark.
There's always a thing.
Here's a portal entry for Nebraska. Ndamukong Suh. Ndamukong Suh's in the portal. Remember the guy they thought was Ndamukong? They said he's the next Suh. Keona Davis. He's in the portal. How many defensive linemen does Nebraska have left? Do they have any?
Seems like maybe not any at all.
Is anybody
Hello?
Is anybody on the team anymore? Dang.
Nebraska was to be no rushers.
Nebraska was obviously very, very high on Keona Davis. But their defensive coordinator left, and their defensive line coach followed him, and their former defensive back coach followed them. And I don't know. I would imagine that there's probably some correspondences with those people saying, hey, look, do you need a spot? We got a spot. I don't know. It's up to you. Could be fun. But Keona Davis is into the portal. I have to find a new next Suh. Who's the new next Suh? We'll find out soon. All right. Back after this with the Pulse. We'll tell you what to watch on 1620 The Zone. Oh, the old double portal for A.J. Allen. Remember A.J. Allen? Former Nebraska, A.J. Allen, former Nebraska running back A.J. Allen. He was at Miami this past year after transferring from Nebraska before this past year. And now he is going back into the portal. I swear to God, there's some guys who love the portal more than they love college, more than they love football. Like, what can I do? I'd like to spend a bunch of time in the portal. A.J. Allen back into the portal. It's going to be a lot of guys. Remember how weird we would always think it would be if like a guy played at 3 schools in 5 years or something like that? Or, I mean, how many guys have we seen now have played for 4 or more schools? Like, It's not even uncommon anymore.
No.
It's like, he played for 4 schools in
totally
4 years.
Normal now.
That's just the way it goes. Today, December 9th, if you have a Heisman vote and you're listening out there, don't forget to submit your vote today. Heisman ballots are due.
This is the first Heisman race in a while where people have very strong opinions.
They say, I have an opinion, Peter.
I have thoughts.
They say, I have an opinion. But the odds would favor Mr. Hunter right now. They say that the hashtag that Ashton Genty, I think, is trying to get going is snaps aren't stats. Snaps isn't a stat, something like that. Either way, it doesn't look like it's going to matter. Travis Hunter is a minus 4,000 favorite on the FanDuel Sportsbook right now to win the 2024 Heisman Trophy. Ashton Genty plus 1,100. And if you'd like to go to anywhere else off the board, it would be not advisable that you would do so. Although you should have taken the sandwich again for the second year in a row. Shedeur Sanders, Heisman ticket or sandwich. Even though right now, if you doubled down on the fact that you wanted a Shedeur Sanders Heisman ticket, you can get it at plus 50,000. Don't believe that will be happening. We will find out who the Heisman finalists are this afternoon after most of the votes are in. To the polls, Peter was putting some up during the show.
Yeah, this might be the most polls I've put up in a day. It's not an overwhelming amount.
Yeah, you were like stealth putting up these polls, so I appreciate that. College football NIT. Would watch for sure, or I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good. I use it as an illustration to show that there's not enough good teams in the country right now. 59% say they'd watch it. Wow, kind of surprising. Is there too much going on with the younger people's T-shirts these days? Definitely.
This one's definitely leaning yes.
73% say yes. Monday Night Football tonight. Would you rather? Oh, I forgot about this. Josh would have been freaking out about this today. Are you watching the regular broadcast or the Simpsons cast? Peter?
I will check out the Simpsons one. I will say that one I think is streaming exclusive, ESPN Plus or Disney Plus. So
it's okay.
You'd have to have that, but I will check it out.
You're going to check out this. So what happens on the Simpsons cast? Bengals Cowboys, by the way.
I don't know what all they're planning because I heard it's going to be similar to the Toy Story one that they did last year, but I didn't watch that, so I don't know like what exactly this will look like.
Right, here we
but
go.
I like the Simpsons, so excited to see what they
we were just so
cooking up.
lucky that also the Cowboys are sort of like a Homer Simpson type team, American team. Mike McCarthy might be a Homer type guy, one might imagine. Simpson showrunner Matt Selman said in a teleconference last week.
I think I saw something that
he called Mike McCarthy Homer Simpson. Rough.
I think I saw that Bart will represent the Bengals and Homer the Cowboys.
All right, cool.
I don't know what that means.
I'll be watching regular football.
Do I
Thank
know
you.
what that means? No.
53% say regular football. And finally, should Connor comment pancakes to access the cinnamon roll pancake recipe? No. I think it's time to throw my phone away.
But what did the people think?
The people think 77% say that I should comment pancakes. I will not take all of that advice. Those are the polls. Do we have anything that we're watching tonight, Peter?
So it's pretty light on sports for the most part. We have
watching the portal,
the Monday Night Football game, and then there's a singular NBA game and 8 Division I college basketball games. There's Minnesota, Indiana, 5:30 on BTN. If that is something you want to watch.
Opponent preview for
football.
Nebraska.
Yeah, Indiana's coming to town.
Do you think that they should have, like, ESPN Plus should have a 24/7 portal channel this week?
Oh yeah,
like just talk portal all the time.
People would watch that.
I mean, there's topics. There's always topics. You could have a couple evergreen topics and then keep track of every single person.
I think because I think one of the overarching complaints about all this is that it's hard to follow. But if they had like a one concrete, not like a tell-all, but like a channel devoted to just portal news, could be helpful. I don't know. It's a good idea. I like it.
All right, Peter. Thanks for hanging out today. It's appreciated. It was fun. That is it for us, and we will return tomorrow. Time for the crossover in the afternoon. If you missed anything, you can find it on our website, 1620thezone.com. Crossover's next.